you're acting like it's strange. Cause being human so peculiar, we're too scared to make a change. Human so peculiar, we're too scared to make a change. Shakara, ha, Shakara, ha, Shakara, ha, Shakara, ha, Shakara.
And we are live once again from a luxurious private island. This is the Library of Mass Destruction. I am your host, Capitalisimo, and with me once again is Christopher Sandbatch. How are you doing today, sir?
You know what I'm doing. I am at this very moment. I am last minute Christmas shopping for a copy of Frankenstein.
There are so many. It's not a banned book.
It's not, but
I only read banned books.
Frankenstein probably should be banned.
It should be banned because it was allegedly written by a woman. But
no, there's a lot of things going on with this. You know, it famously, and this is the thing that's really started to interest me quite a bit, is that there are not canonical editions of very many books, you know. But Frankenstein is a truly strange, it's like, this is not like there were some minor revisions made. We're talking like Go Set a Watchman to Kill a Mockingbird tier differences between the two main editions of Frankenstein. It was an 1818 edition, and it was reissued in 1831, and they are wildly different. And so, like, even if, let's like I said, if you've read the book Frankenstein, you probably don't remember which one you read, and so you could certifiably be thinking of a different story than somebody else.
Is there a version where he just sparkles when he goes outside and he's stuck in a love triangle with a handsome werewolf?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure which version I read. Randall Shirker coming out of the gates with a $10 super chat.
$10.
Merry Christmas, Cap. Here's to another year of screaming at man-made horrors within our comprehension, especially if this chapter gets into what I think it will. It will. And Merry Christmas to you, Randall Shirker. And also, I assume that you meant to wish a Merry Christmas to Sandbatch as well.
Yeah.
So I will assume your good intentions. So, yeah. This is going to be a rough one, actually.
What do you mean by rough one?
Yeah, I mean, so Program to Kill did kind of age really well, especially in the last, couple weeks. So it's all about cover-ups of pedophilia among the Washington elites. And there aren't any, like ellipses around elites when I say that. I mean all of them.
I mean all of them.
Yeah, I do mean all of them. They just, it seems like being a diddler. It seems like being a diddler is like a requirement to actually win an election.
Big think on that.
Big think on that. Big think. I mean, the big think is that's what AIPAC's actually paying for. Let's be real. Yeah. So, there. I mean, as far as we've gotten with this particular book, I think I might have used. Oh no, I didn't use Jeffrey Epstein in the thumbnail for the first one. I used Jolly West, but Epstein has been in the last two. So if he comes back next week, then we're gonna have to call it a trend. So yeah. So wait, but you got a copy of Mary. So you're looking for a copy of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. That seems like an easy thing to get. Are you trying to make it a special copy, or are you trying to just like an early edition?
Yeah, I don't want to know. It's got to be. I don't like to go all the way back and do that because it's got to be readable.
A pop-up book.
Well, it's got to be like one that you can actually open and hold. Like, don't feel bad about taking off the shelf.
You're getting it tattooed on your own back.
Yeah,
you're getting it tattooed on the back of 100 obese hobos. There are more common than you might think, and binding it into a quarto-sized volume. Am I close?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking for the 1924 edition, the 1924 printing in London.
Funny story. When
I'll tell you which one it is.
Funny story. When I'm gonna buy the last copy on eBay right now.
Yeah.
Funny story. When so there are also multiple versions of Dracula, as you're probably aware. And when my wife and I were renovating our house, we took apart the 1920s medicine cabinet that was in one of the bathrooms, and behind the mirror used as part of the mounting was a full page front page newspaper from the paper of record in the town in which we live, and it had the serialization of Bram Stoker's Dracula in it.
Very cool.
So a large section of it has like this sort of Art Nouveau illustration printed directly that is about the chapter of Bram Stoker's Dracula that is in that particular issue. They should do serializations in newspapers again. Newspapers are, it's not like anyone's reading them for the fucking news, right? Other than, I don't know, the New York Times is like the newspaper that's left. Washington Post, maybe. I don't know. But they should just start serializing. Novels in them again. Although if they did that, they would probably serialize popular novels, and they would probably be essentially pornography because that's what women buy. And, I mean, it is. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but like Morning Glory Milking Farm is consistently in the top 100 books sold on Amazon.
No way. Well, I'd never look. I did try to like secretly scrape the Audubon bestseller. I mean, the bestseller list for quite some time, but I just burned through so many IPs. I don't even look at it because I don't want to see it.
Yeah. Sandbatch, I think you might have the particular set of skills necessary to become a top selling smut author.
I probably could.
You could. You have what women want, and it's smut.
Yeah,
they're
so true.
They are the most unbelievable gooners in the world. They pretend like they aren't, which is one of the many feminine sins. But guys will talk about gooning. Women will pretend. Women will be like, "Oh, I love literature."
Yeah.
It's code. It's code.
Well, yeah, it's so true. Actually, fuck. I like thinking about these things, but you're right.
Yeah. A woman who has actually ever read I don't know. Let's see. Have you ever tried to get a woman to read Philip Roth?
No, I've never tried to read Philip Roth.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
it's very
It's one of the dude. I tell you this all the time, and you keep asking me.
Unparalleled insight into the Judaic mind, especially a particular kind of American Judaic mind. Yeah,
it is in fact like I'm not even lying whenever I say that I don't like my knowledge cut. I'm like ChatGPT. My knowledge cutoff is at like 1960.
Oh God. I'm unaware of that. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just a large language model. I'm unable to tell you about horny Jews. Well, on that topic, yeah. Well, so other than your last minute Christmas shopping, you got any big plans for the holiday?
No, not really. Might do some traveling, but probably not. I'm just tired, so I'm sleeping a lot.
All right. This will be your year of rest and relaxation.
Yeah.
Speaking of women making excuses for gooning, well, I think that you should hit up the cathedral. I'm sure that the one in New Orleans is gorgeous. I've never been.
It's beautiful, but it's the oldest church in the city, but it's not the coolest. It's not the one where they do the Latin Mass. The one they do the Latin Mass is St. Patrick's. And my favorite church in the city is Our Lady of Guadalupe. It's like right on Broad Street.
Traitor.
Which has the actually has the statue. It's the International Shrine of St. Jude and has a statue of St. Expedite in it.
Oh, sick. I do like Jude Thaddeus, which I assume is the one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's him.
Let's see. Yeah, my wife and I bought a box of the Café du Monde beignet mix, which I realize is like one tier above Betty Crocker.
That's what it's the one if you're gonna make beignets, it's the one. It's just flour.
I know. We're gonna make them on Christmas morning.
Hell yeah!
Have some beignets.
You gotta make really nice coffee with it.
Well, yeah, without any fucking chicory. Just makes it. Yeah.
I mean, chicory coffee is usually not good coffee.
I know, but that's Café du Monde, of course. But I will certainly make some espresso for myself. She does not partake. She is a teetotaler in all respects. So, the spotless metabolism, never consuming neither uppers nor downers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's get started. It's chapter 2 to Washington. If you recall, chapter 1 was called From Brussels. So, and it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get much worse.
It never gets better.
I didn't notice this earlier. Mike of Pole says, because I buy copies to give to friends. He was talking, of course, about Morning Glory Milking Farm. Just in case you were not following along.
How's it going, Mike?
Randall Shirker says, I'm glad I'm a bog standard prot. I can't imagine the fights I'd have with the cathedral I'd end up going to around here. I will probably end up going to a Protestant service for the benefit of an elderly family member. But I'm not gonna like it.
That's how it starts.
We do it occasionally. We do it occasionally, and it's awful every time. She's an evangelical, so it's disorienting for me. But of course, the evangelical pastor is no more of an authority than I am, so it's fine. Randall Shirker says, it's what you got to do for family man. Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. So, Michael Bull says, that's right. So yeah, Mike, you're going to hate this. So let's get into it.
You're going to hate it.
Washington, you're going to hate it. Several prosecutors, policemen, and crucial eyewitnesses have committed suicide. Important evidence has also disappeared. So maybe Dutroux is being protected from on high. What other explanation can there be for such a disgraceful chain of events? Andrew Osborne in The Guardian, January 25th, 2002. While the size and scope of the pedophile rings have grown rapidly in recent years, America, as it turns out, has long been a nation whose laws were friendly to purveyors of child pornography. It was just 25 years ago in 1978. Boy, I really wish that was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
It's 25 years ago was 2000. That the very first federal statute on child pornography was passed into law. While forbidding production and sale, the statute placed no restrictions at all on the possession or trade of such materials. New laws enacted in 1984, literally 1984, forbid the trade of child pornography, regardless of whether any money changed hands, though possession remained legal. In fact, as recently as 1990, private possession of child pornography was legal in 44 of the 50 states, despite the inescapable fact that all such materials were, by necessity, illegally produced and or illegally obtained. Yeah, that I did not know that before reading this book, and that is extremely gross.
I did not know. I didn't know anything.
I did not know. You just sort of assume that if someone sees you, or if someone's like, hey, why do you have all of these pictures of like a kid getting buggered? I feel like that's not gonna, I feel like that there's no time period in which that would have gone well for the person whose hideous crime was so discovered. Yeah. But yeah, Shirker says most of these cases were prosecuted by various Comstock law statutes, if I recall correctly. Yeah, makes sense. Oh, and of course state law. So yeah, I mean, of course that would be obscenity, right? Just about the only thing I think that would still qualify under an obscenity law, right? It's not, they're pretty weak laws nowadays, given that we have mostly naked cross-dressers, just not naked enough to know that they're wearing the clothing of the other sex, parading around in publicly funded events. So thank God there's one thing left that's considered obscene. Technology has for some time now played a key role in greatly expanding the availability of child pornography. The Polaroid camera, for example, eliminated the need for child pornographers to have access to complicit photo labs. Home video cameras did likewise for moving images. Personal computers, digital cameras, webcams, scanners, and most notably, the capital I internet have vastly expanded the reach of child pornography networks. In the age of the internet, child pornography is a booming business. The Los Angeles Times noted in December 1999 that the number of investigations for internet-related child pornography is soaring. The FBI launched 1,125 such inquiries this year, more than twice as many as last year. I think I'm going to start I'm just going to say CP from now on, because it's kind of a mouthful and I don't like having it in my mouth. In the wake of this rising tide, the U.S. Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, generally not a fan of the Ninth Circuit, but let's see.
The one in San Francisco.
Yeah. Issued a ruling on December 17th, 1999 that struck a serious blow to the prosecution of child pornography cases. Oh, still not a fan of the Ninth Circuit. As the Times reported, the decision stipulated the government cannot prohibit computer-generated sexual images that only appear to be pictures of children. A later report noted that appeals court judge Donald Malloy had stated that the First Amendment bars the government from criminalizing the generation of images of fictitious children engaged in imaginary but explicit sexual conduct. As a result of the court's decision, prosecutors were thereafter barred from bringing virtual CP cases in California and the 8 other Western states within the jurisdiction of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I'm sure now that AI is around. That's not happening anymore.
Yeah. Did you see that? Some AI lawyer did something.
What?
I can't remember.
Well, so here's the thing: images of fictitious children engaged in imaginary but explicit sexual conduct. What if it's an image of a real child generated to be engaging in imaginary but explicit sexual conduct? Is that, that seems like it would not, like if someone generated, because all generative AI is based on pictures of real things,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it kind of seems like that would, versus like drawing something, which while disgusting is pretty clearly protected by the First Amendment.
I don't know if we have to. Yeah.
I'm just okay. This is getting close to the what about the age of consent? Yeah. But anyway, I'm just saying that this particular ruling seems like there might actually be a chink in that armor as far as AI is concerned. As critics have noted, graphics technology now available to the general public is so sophisticated that it is virtually impossible to determine if an image has been digitally altered, and therefore if any actual children were involved in the generation of the image. U.S. Justice Department lawyers argued that very point, noting that the government may find it impossible in many cases to prove that a pornographic image is of a real child. Any good defense attorney, in other words, could raise reasonable doubt as to the authenticity of an image. It could, in fact, be argued that all such computer images only appear to be pictures of children. Computer images are not, in fact, photos, but are digital computer files that display as a facsimile of the original photo. A sound legal argument could be made that all digitally transferred and displayed CP is therefore legal, as it does not represent, quote unquote, real children. That's a little spurious to me. Like the storage of the image seems irrelevant. But okay. That should come as great news to the international CP networks, given that the United States is their number one market. According to investigative author Gordon, I bet that's not true anymore. I bet it's like fucking India. Like now that so many more of them are online. No, like, that's like a number thing. Obviously, like when this book was written, right, the online market for CP would have mostly been in the United States just because of internet access and population size.
Dude, every time I guess this is my second ride on this book, and I am continually amazed at how genuinely fucked the things that you just say out loud when you just read this book are.
Me or any person?
Yeah, any person. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Less alarmed now.
Less alarmed. That was like coming right for the throat.
It's like, oh no. Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, yeah, it's like, well, while we're on the topic, right? Let me just, yeah, exactly. You're right. According to investigative author Gordon Thomas, the majority of CP produced worldwide is targeted at the U.S., where by the early 90s, it was already a $3 billion a year business and growing. Thomas claims that according to law enforcement figures, over 22 million copies of CP videos were sold or rented. Wow. In the US in 1991. So that was like VHS or Betamax. You're like literally like, oh, bring it back in 3 days and be sure to rewind, like literally running a rental op. He also writes that much of what?
I mean, I think we worked out the price last time. It does get expensive if you're like really a serious collector.
We did. That's right. We did work out the price. Wait. So if it was okay, so it was legal to possess, it was illegal to sell. Weird. I bet renting was also. I bet it was like you couldn't exchange money for it. Anyway, he also writes that much of that pornographic material is produced domestically, where it is part of the largest segment of movie making in the United States. Jan Hollingsworth concurs with Thomas's figures, describing CP as a $3 billion per year U.S. industry that grossed twice that worldwide. It is bigger than Disney, much bigger. Well, not anymore. But speaking of Disney, Thomas notes that CP videos are frequently trafficked internationally by deceptively packaging them as Disney movies. Funny you should mention that. Strangely enough, the first man to benefit from the Ninth Circuit Court decision was Patrick J. Naughton. You may remember him as the executive with the Walt Disney Company who ran one of the company's kid-friendly websites. Naughton was arrested and later tried on child pornography charges. He was convicted on December 16th, just one day before the decision was handed down in the case before the circuit court. Within hours of the appeals court hearing, Naughton was released by federal prosecutors on a $100,000 bond, despite the fact that he was, as the Times acknowledged, convicted of possessing pictures of actual children. A decision was made to release him until the impact of the court's ruling can be sorted out, illustrating the significant undermining of existing law that could result from the circuit court ruling. Liquidate the Ninth Circuit Court. What have they ever done for us? Yeah. On January 22nd, 2001, the U.S. Supreme Court agreed to hear the appeal of the case. In April 2002, the High Court rendered its decision, upholding the ruling of the lower court. By doing so, the highest court in the land extended the ban on prosecutions of virtual CP to all 50 states. As the LA Times reported April 17th, 2002, the ruling creates an immunity for a new generation of virtual pornographers who rely entirely on computer images. It's legal as long as you say she's a 1,000-year-old dragon in a human body.
Damn.
Yeah.
It's so broke. Oh my God.
The Times noted that it was an unexpected move for the conservative court, describing the decision as a surprisingly strong defense of the right to free speech. The decision was, alas, not all that surprising, given the Supreme Court has demonstrated in the past, most notably during the 2000 election debacle, its willingness to toss aside its alleged principles when the need arises. Noted by the Times once again was the concern among prosecutors that they will have a hard time proving that children portrayed on an internet sex site, for example, are real children. The decision handed down by the Supreme Court notably does not answer that concern. Closely associated with CP is, of necessity, child abuse. It should be self-evident that all kids used in CP are abused children, their abuse recorded on film and tape for the depraved enjoyment of other child abusers. As Anne Houston, the director of the organization Childline Scotland, has said, every image of child abuse on the internet is a crime scene. QED. Yep. Also closely associated with CP is the always controversial issue of missing children. There is considerable debate as to whether there is a problem in this country with missing children. Some claim that 200,000 or more children disappear without a trace every year. Missing 411. Others steadfastly maintain that numbers such as those are grossly inflated and that abduction of children by strangers with bad intent is actually quite rare. The problem is that nobody really knows for sure, since the FBI, America's compiler of crime statistics, does not bother to keep track. As the Los Angeles Times reported in July 2002, there is a lack of knowledge about the prevalence of a crime that is historically not been included in the federal government's Uniform Crime Report. Local agencies have only sporadically kept data. Many believe that the numbers are not compiled because the FBI does not want to know, or more accurately, the FBI does not want the American people to know how many children disappear every year. Yikes.
That's interesting. I also would like to point out, did chat notice the Republican Party springing into action to protect pedophiles? Like free speech suddenly becomes really important to the Republican Party when there's pedophiles involved. Whoa, we can't do. I didn't know.
What was the what are you talking about specifically? Do you mean the Epstein files?
The court case you were just reading about.
Oh yeah. Well, but that was a slightly conservative court. But I mean, who was it in 2002? It would have been Alito, Scalia, Thomas, Ginsburg. Let's see. Sotomayor obviously hadn't been put in yet. Hold on.
Seeing Alito that long ago?
2002 Supreme Court. All right. Whoops. All right. It was. All right. It was John Paul Stevens, Sandra Day O'Connor. Oh yeah, that's who I was thinking of. The other bitch who was still in there. Scalia, Kennedy,
she was still very much alive then.
Souter, Clarence Thomas, RBG, and Stephen Breyer. Wait, hold on. Who the hell? Oh, and Rehnquist. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Okay, you're right. Yeah. Yeah. I guess it wasn't. Yeah. All right. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah. You seem mad. You're like, you seem pissed about it.
I'm pissed that I wasn't able to remember more of them. Yeah.
I only remembered like one of them. I didn't know Samuel Alito had been around that long at all.
No, it wasn't. Alito wasn't in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That was Scalia. All right. Let's see. Rest in peace, Scalia. All right. Let's see. What is known, though, is the reports of child abuse have skyrocketed. Between 1963 and 1988, reported cases of child abuse rose from 150,000 to 2 million per year, a 1,300% increase in just a quarter century. I mean, also, back then you'd slap your kid around and that wouldn't have been considered child abuse. Nowadays, you let a 5-year-old play outside in the front yard and you're abandoning them.
Yeah.
But, let's see. And possibly the most, just a quarter century. Child abuse may in fact be the most prevalent crime in American society, and possibly the most significant as well, given that it provides the breeding ground for so much of the more visible crime plaguing Western culture. Based phrasing. As Thomas reports, over 90% of the teenage prison population are now victims of child abuse, and that population is growing rapidly. In the wake of that rising tide, the Los Angeles Times reported in March 2001 that President Bush's budget will trim a program aimed at preventing child abuse and cut some child care spending. A child abuse prevention program will see an 18% cut. Author and e-zine editor Robert Sterling has written, sci-fi author Robert Sterling he wrote The Difference Engine with William Gibson. Did you ever read that?
That one, hilariously, I did. So like, finally, you hit my you hit my cruiser.
Yeah,
you're the only person that asked me about books I haven't read.
You know what? That was Bruce Sterling. I'm an idiot. Sorry. Has written what he refers to as the pattern of trivialization of child molestation evidence that seem to characterize high-profile media stories. He points out, for instance, that in the highly publicized Woody Allen and Mia Farrow child custody case, All the attention was focused on Allen's illicit romance with Soon Yi Priven. Almost entirely ignored in the media coverage was the fact that Allen was also charged with molesting his own 7-year-old adopted daughter, Dylan. While the press dismissed those allegations as unfounded and unworthy of reporting, serving notes that Connecticut state authorities, based on the testimony of Dylan and others, have stated that they do believe Woody did molest her, but decided not to prosecute anyway, allegedly to spare the child any further trauma. The best way to spare a child any further trauma is to leave them in the custody of the guy molesting them. Sterling also takes note of the case of the Menendez brothers, who, after admitting to murdering their parents, painfully revealed that they were ruthlessly abused and molested by them over the years. Their claims were never fully investigated, and the boys were viciously demonized for trying to escape the murder charges and accused of making up their abuse. Though there was in fact evidence of that abuse. Also referenced by Sterling is the kid gloves treatment afforded to Michael Jackson when he was charged with molestation. Even though the accusations against him are widely believed to be true, they are merely passed off with a laugh among other smirking monologue jokes on Jay Leno. And of course, though not mentioned by Sterling, sister LaToya was ridiculed by the media when she came forward with stories about the sexual abuse suffered by the Jackson kids at the hands of their father. Other cases discussed in Sterling's piece include the overhyped au pair trial, during which evidence of prior abuse of the child by his parents was consistently ignored, and the Susan Smith case, in which the media refused to consider whether Smith's own severe childhood abuse could have been a factor in the murder of her children, despite the fact that her father admitted to the chronic abuse. Well, let me tell you, if you were abused as a child and then you abused children, you are no less guilty. Go fuck yourself.
Damn.
Go fuck yourself like your father fucked you. Like, do not care. Nut up and don't like pass that shit on. Like, that's just how it's got to be. Sorry, bud. Coupled with the fact that the press have consistently downplayed the occurrence of child molestation, is the equally disturbing fact that the very same media have actively promoted the sexualization of children, a trend that's been greatly accelerated in recent years, and which served to some degree, legitimize pedophilia. Take note of the proliferation of young teen and even preteen sex symbols. Tom Junod wrote in Esquire, February 2001, that the entire culture is besotted with the erotic promise of teenage girls. Lure of jailbait now supplies the erotic energy to a popular culture desperate for what's new, what's young, what's alive. The Junod article is, strangely enough, a profile of Greg Dark, one half of the former Dark brothers, notorious purveyors of dark-themed, occult-tinged porno films. Dark is rather noteworthy for having openly produced and peddled CP, and that many of his films featured a very young Tracy Lords, who began working with the Dark brothers at the age of 13. Yeah. But Dark has now put those days long behind him. He's now working comfortably in the mainstream, and he is no longer marketing teen sexuality. No, now he's creating music videos for Britney Spears, Mandy Moore, and preteen Leslie Carter, sister of Aaron Carter and Backstreet Boy Nick Carter. That is, according to Dark, a completely different line of work. I didn't know that. I didn't know that the guy who made the Britney Spears music videos was a known former child pornographer. Huh. Although it does make sense. It is relevant work experience.
Oh, I was just talking and my phone, my computer was muted. But yeah, I was like, I didn't know that either. But wow, I can't say I'm surprised.
Yeah,
Justin Bieber got raped a bunch too.
I'm pretty sure Justin Bieber got raped a bunch by P. Diddy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure that was in.
Pretty sure we've got names.
Pretty sure we know who did it. Pretty sure there are videos. Because apparently Diddy's mansion complex was completely covered in fucking cameras. So, the Mossad definitely has videos of the Biebs getting dicked down by the BBC. It is not just the media that has been actively promoting the sexualization of children. Certain segments of academia have been busily doing so as well. On April 19, 2002, the Washington Times carried a report detailing a movement within academia to promote free sexual expression of children. One day, one of these episodes is going to be called Maps of Meaning. I forgot to do that this week. I hate the fucking attempt to whitewash that, but it's going to happen in my lifetime. Like, there's going to be a concerted effort. I know it. Like, I know it in my heart. I hate it, but I know it's going to happen. This movement to legitimize sex between adults and children is gathering steam, warns Stephanie Delam, researcher for the Leadership Council for Mental Health, Justice, and Media in Philadelphia, an organization that deals with prevention and treatment of child abuse. Some people view children as the next sexual frontier, Ms. Delam says. Referenced in the Times article is Judith Levine's book, Harmful to Minors, The Perils of Protecting Children from Sex, published by the University of Minnesota Press. Levine's book endorses a Dutch law passed in 1990 that effectively lowered the age of consent to 12. As the Times article points out, the book is only the most recent in a series of academic arguments for consensual sex involving children. Included among such academic endeavors are an article published in 2000 by the Institute for Advanced Study of Human Sexuality in San Francisco, of course, in which authors claimed that there was considerable evidence that there is no inherent harm in sexual expression in childhood. Which is why participating in crimes later on is so heavily associated with having been a victim of child abuse. An interview with, although, I mean, I guess if it's in San Francisco, they probably don't actually think crime is bad. So
they think it's bad, but they don't want to offend anybody by saying it.
Right. An interview with San Francisco State University professor Gilbert Hurt Stonet in the Dutch pro-pedophilia journal Padica, in which Hurt stated the category child is a rhetorical device for inflaming what is really an irrational set of attitudes against pedophilia. Wow, this guy, where is this guy right now? Actually, where is he right now? Gilbert Hurt. Gilbert gonna get fucking hurt if I ever meet him. Shit. Hold on. Crap. I lost my place. Uh-oh. There we go. Hold on. I was trying to crap. Hold on. There we go. All right. To Washington. There we go. Okay. All right. Gilbert Hurt. Where are we? American anthropologist. 76 years old, still alive. There's still time to find this motherfucker and debate him completely verbally in Minecraft. Anyway, another interview with Padica given by John Money. There we go. A professor emeritus at Johns Hopkins University that spoke of genuinely, totally mutual sex between adult men and young boys. Okay. A 1990 John Money, inventor of trannies. A 1998 study in a journal of the American, known for his other work. It's the same. It's all the same thing. A 1998 study in a journal of the American Psychological Association argued that value-neutral terms such as adult-child sex should be used to describe a willing encounter between an adult pedophile and a child. Well, there's not any other kind of pedophile, but one of these studies' co-authors, Robert Bauserman with the Maryland Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, has written previously for Padica. This 1998 study, according to the Times, has already been used as evidence to defend accused child molesters in at least 3 court cases. Fucking course. There we go. Many of these recent arguments in favor of the expression of child sexuality were influenced by the work of Indiana University professor Alfred Kinsey, who claimed in his notorious late 1940s, early 1950s reports on human sexuality that children are sexual from birth. The professor was, oddly enough, another devoted disciple of Aleister Crowley. Kinsey died shortly after paying a visit to Crowley's Thelema Abbey in Sicily with the filmmaker and fellow occultist Kenneth Anger, who was the roommate and probable lover of Manson family member Bobby Beausoleil. But we will get to that later. Whoa! That was him reciting the track of a single piece of red yarn pinned to his wall. Yep. Like child molestation and child abduction, child prostitution is also closely associated with child pornography. Well, I mean, okay, yeah. Although that's a little weird because, I mean, is the child getting paid? I mean, someone is. Make no mistake about it, child prostitution is a booming business. A&E's investigative reports has noted that law enforcement figures indicate that there are currently some 600,000 child prostitutes working in the United States and Canada, and you don't have a girlfriend.
Damn.
Not you. Listeners. Yeah, you have many friends.
I had a woman today refer to Sandbatch's army of e-girls in my DMs.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And was she asking what rank she would be at?
I said I don't have an army.
Lance Corporal.
I don't have an army. I have an elite group of commandos.
You have a navy.
Yeah.
I have an Air Force of e-girls.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Oh, dear God. All right. Child prostitutes working in the United States and Canada in an industry that generates $5 billion a year worldwide. And he also reported that throughout North America, there is a growing use of children in the sex trade. Young boys make up 51% of that trade. The FBI, alas, has turned a blind eye for the last quarter century. Federal prosecutions of major pimp operations have been virtually non-existent. As Dr. Lois Lee has noted, it is not a high priority with the FBI to go after kids that are being transported across state lines. It's really a disgrace. Of course, they are in the possession of the CIA. So it's, not really something the FBI would stick their nose into. Dr. Lee is the founder of Children of the Night, an organization devoted to helping repair the shattered lives of child sex trade victims. Her facility, said to be the only one of its kind in the world, has seen 10,000 kids pass through its doors. Fully 90% of them have suffered a lifetime of abuse, first at home and later on in the streets and alleys of America's big cities. Most of them suffered their first abuse before the age of 3. Many of these victims are runaways. Victims are runaways recruited from small towns across the country and then brought to prime child prostitution markets like Los Angeles and Las Vegas. Once there, they have an average lifespan of just 7 years. Many of them do not make it through their teenage years. For as long as they survive, though, they reap enormous financial rewards for their pimps. Yeah, okay, I was going to say they're probably really not getting any of that money, are they? The younger the child, the more popular they are with the Johns, and therefore more profitable for their exploiters. Yeah, I should have gotten a glass of water before this. A landmark study on the commercial sexual exploitation of children was concluded by the University of Pennsylvania School of Social Work in 2001. A chilling report issued by the researchers was completely ignored by the U.S. media. Well, of course they ignored it. It's like, well, of course I've heard of him. He's me, right? Like that's anyway.
Of course I know him. He's me.
Yeah. No doubt was due in part to the rather curious timing of the release of the report. It was issued September 10th, 2001, less than 24 hours before the World Trade Center towers came crashing down. Written by Richard J. Estes and Neil Allen Weiner, the study notes that the era of economic globalization, internationalization, and free trade has been accompanied by a dramatic rise worldwide in the incidence of child exploitation, child pornography, juvenile prostitution, and trafficking in children for sexual purposes have emerged as significant problems in the national, regional, and international stages. So too has child sex tourism. I presume that's people doing the tourism to have sex with children, not children doing the tourism. The ugly reality is that in a global marketplace, everything has a price tag, including the sexual services of our children. The study also revealed that child sexual exploitation and commercial sexual exploitation of children appear to be related in complex ways with other forms of child exploitation, such as the use of children in labor, drug, and warfare settings. Among the findings summarized in the report's executive summary are all of the following. So it's like, oh, well, you know, this one's ugly, so he's going to be a child soldier, but this one's handsome, so sorry, buddy, you get to be a comfort girl. Like, please, if you're listening to this and you're a child soldier in Africa, thank your lucky stars, because it could have been worse. Yeah. For clubs, many of these cases are linked to the so-called satanic panic. Yep, there's a whole chapter on the Finders cult. Yeah, this is relatively light. This is relatively light because we're not hearing about individual children at this point. The Brussels chapter was actually quite a lot more graphic, but it does get worse. So, let's see here. Among the findings summarized in the report's executive summary are all of the following. About 20% of children we encountered in this study were being trafficked nationally by organized criminal units using well-established prostitution tracks. Children are trafficked into and within the U.S. by a variety of private and public means. For example, cars, buses, vans, trucks, planes getting let in at Eagle Pass by the Border Patrol under Biden. The majority of nationally trafficked children both use drugs and engage in drug sales. About 10% of the children we encountered are trafficked internationally. Yeah, it makes sense that you just get them hooked on something, because then if they don't know how to get it unless you give it to them, and so if they can't run away because they're hooked on fentanyl or whatever. Most internationally trafficked children are the citizens of developing countries located in Asia, Africa, Central and South America, and Central and Eastern Europe. Yeah, places there, which implies, I want to point out, they're probably being sold, like, by their parents. Like, that's where they're coming from. They're not being stolen; they're being purchased.
Well, yeah,
which is
there was
way worse
market in this. You know?
Well. At later points in this book, I know that he does talk about women getting pregnant to have children that are specifically for prostitution, sacrifice, and trafficking.
Yeah.
So, which is like, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess it's that's what gay guys do, right? So, presumably most of them aren't actually just slaughtering them, but I think I'm totally okay with that, just believing that that's what's going on. So sure. Yeah. Anyway, most internationally trafficked children are the citizens of developed. I already said that. International trafficking in children is highly lucrative. A single trafficked child can earn a trafficker as much as $30,000 or more in trafficking fees. That is not enough. That is not enough. I want to point out again how not enough that is to basically commit the worst crime, right? To do the worst fucking crime, $30,000. That is nothing. Like, nothing. I mean, $30,000 is a lot of money, but like $30,000 is fucking nothing for that, right? So like cheap fucking crime, like, Jesus. In many cases, trafficked children are also required to serve as mules in transporting illicit drugs either into or across the U.S. or both. Obvious in these findings is the fact that the trafficking of children, both nationally and internationally, is an immensely profitable criminal enterprise requiring the involvement of a wide range of functionaries, including recruiters, trainers, purveyors of false documents, transporters, money collectors, enforcers, arrangers, and investors. Corrupt public officials, informers, guides, and crew. supporting personnel and specialists. The university's researchers also discovered approximately 10% of the pimps in the U.S. are tied into international sex crime networks. These individuals participate actively in the international trafficking of children, including American children and children who are nationals of other countries. Typically, these pimps also are connected in some way to international drug networks. The close connections between the international trafficking of children and the international trafficking of drugs is significant in that, as a number of researchers have documented, America's Central Intelligence Agency plays a central role in the international drug trade. It would seem then to logically follow that the same organization would be deeply involved in the equally lucrative international trade in children. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Jesus. Let's see. Randall Shirker, 30K a header every shipment. Yeah, it seems like it's probably per head. I realize I'm not much of a plan truster myself, but the fact that under the Trump administration, known crossings dropping to almost zero from millions a year, like that is a real, it's effectively an embargo on child sex trafficking.
I didn't know something actually happened.
Oh yeah, that was like the crossings have dropped to a statistically zero when compared to even last year.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is really cool.
And I like literally don't pay attention to the news at all.
I mean, it's wise of you. But the but yeah, I mean, like that is effectively a hard embargo on child sex trafficking. And apparently
you heard it here first. You heard it here on Library of Mass Destruction. President Trump declares embargo on child sex trafficking.
Yeah, whereas the prior administration was in favor of free trade of child prostitutes. Yeah, I mean it. You know, it sounds like I'm being flippant when I say that, and then obviously I do have a penchant for being flippant, but that is just the hard truth. They were allowing children to be brought into the country by random individuals for the horrendous uses of perverts. I mean, there's not a more gentle way of saying that, but. And also the Border Patrol and DHS was actually able to find a lot of children who had been released into the custody of people who were not their relatives in any way, had no connection to them by the Biden administration. They were able to find, I think it was 200,000 children who had been released in such a manner. So, yeah, I could be wrong on that exact number, but it was a lot, and any is a good thing to do. So let's see. Just months before the University of Pennsylvania's report, DePaul University's International Human Rights Law Institute released the results of a 3-year study of sexual slavery. Researchers concluded that some 2 million women and children are held in sexual servitude worldwide, and those numbers are growing. As with the other academic study, the report's authors concluded that the advent of globalization has exacerbated the problem by creating what some call market opportunities for traffickers in human beings and for their exploiters. Also, as with the other study, researchers found clear evidence of official complicity in the trafficking rings. It's almost like McGowan is saying what I just said, although, of course, he wrote this long before the Biden administration happened. Also, as with the other study, researchers found clear evidence of official complicity in the trafficking rings. The report's authors warned that trafficking victims have no one to turn to for help. Law enforcers are frequently in collusion with the traffickers and exploiters, and victims who seek to escape are returned to their captors by those from whom they sought protection. Their despondency and despair is beyond description. An estimated 30,000 of these victims die every year from abuse, torture, neglect, and disease. But neither the U.S. media nor the Washington establishment have anything to say about that, leaving the American people in a state of collective ignorance and denial, even as child exploitation rings which constitute a vast underground in this country, grow exponentially. How far does this pedophilic underground extend into the halls of power? Are America's political, corporate, and military elite, like their counterparts in Belgium, Latvia, and Portugal, hiding a particularly dirty little secret from the American people? A secret that, if exposed, could shatter America's cherished political and economic institutions and bring the House of Cards crashing down. Consider the case of Craig Spence, a behind-the-scenes Republican power broker in Washington. In June 1989, the Washington Times published a story that sent shockwaves rippling across Capitol Hill. It seemed that Spence had been deeply involved with a call boy ring that supplied young boys, some of them very young boys, to the elite of both political parties, as well as to visiting dignitaries. It was reported by the Times that a list of some 200 influential clients included the names of government officials, locally based U.S. military officers, businessmen, lawyers, bankers, congressional aides, media representatives, and other professionals, only a few of whom were publicly identified. On the guest lists for Spence parties were former CIA Director William Casey, former Deputy Director of Intelligence Ray Klein, Congressman Barney Frank, and Senators John Glenn and Frank Murkowski. Murkowski, still in office, I believe. Political activist and propagandist Phyllis Schlafly. Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh. Oh, no, Phyllis. What are you doing? Former Attorney General John Mitchell, who once co-hosted a party with Spence. Journalist William Safir, Liz Trotta, Ted Koppel, and Eric Severeid, former ambassadors James Lilly, Robert Newman, and Elliot Richardson. General Alfred M. Gray, the Commandant of the U.S. Marine Corps, and Lieutenant General Daniel O. Graham, an expert on the Space Defense Initiative, and former U.S. Attorneys Joseph D. Genova and Victoria Tonsing. Spence once held a birthday bash for the notorious Roy Cohn. He also boasted of playing host to Rock Hudson and other celebrities. Known pederast, Rock Hudson. Let's see. Nick Bryant, the guy who originally released Epstein's Little Black Book, originally cut his teeth on pursuing in a situation that led to Spence. Boy, it's almost like every decade there's like one of these guys who's just providing child butt to the people who run the world. Among the revelations in the case was that Spence had taken some of his callboy escorts on private late-night tours of the White House. The tours, of which there were at least 4, were cleared by a uniformed Secret Service guard who moonlighted as a bodyguard at Spence's parties. Spence himself hinted that the tours were arranged by the National Security Advisor to then-President George H.W. Bush, Donald Gregg, for whom Spence once sponsored a dinner. One of the tours occurred just after Spence stopped by the Nightline studio to see his friend Ted Koppel. Spence reportedly introduced Ted Koppel to a 15-year-old boy who Koppel later claimed Spence had introduced as his son. Koppel, though, had been a close friend for over 20 years and surely knew that Spence did not have a teenage son. Koppel first met Spence in Southeast Asia. What a curious place. When Koppel was serving as the ABC bureau chief in Hong Kong, and Spence was nominally working as an ABC correspondent in Vietnam. Spence openly boasted of working with both the CIA and ranking members of the Reagan and Bush administration. He claimed that he had been involved in covert operations in Vietnam, Japan, Central America, and the Middle East. What country in the Middle East? Can you name a country in the Middle East that might have been involved in such a thing?
No, I don't know any countries in the Middle East, but I know one it's almost in the Middle East, in the Near East.
I can think of some countries on the Mediterranean coast.
Yeah.
His claims
Damn Egyptians.
Yeah. And he was largely portrayed as a self-important blowhard. These are indications, however, that Spence was involved in covert operations as far back as Vietnam, where he could well have been working under journalistic cover. An associate of his from that area from that era told the Washington Post, Spence pulled disappearing acts in Vietnam, sometimes for weeks at a time. Then he'd turn up, refusing to say where he'd been. Fucking boys. That's what he was doing. He was fucking young boys, finding the youngest he could. And they were in Vietnam, so he had to check because they could have been girls. So the sex, that's done all the time. A former Bush economic advisor told the press, if a foreign diplomat wants a companion, the State Department provides it. It doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman. They have a special fund set up for that. Your tax dollars at work. What the unnamed advisor did not say was that such services were provided not as a courtesy to the dignitary, but as a way to compromise and control. Of course, allegations quietly arose that the callboy ring and Spence's parties were part of a CIA sexual blackmail operation. Spence's Washington mansion was said to be overflowing with surveillance equipment, including hidden cameras and microphones and an abundance of two-way mirrors. It was also alleged that cocaine flowed freely at Spence's parties and that he could have been involved in bringing drugs in from El Salvador. The Spence story never really registered on the national media's radar screen. Despite being a largely Republican scandal, it was completely ignored by such pillars of purportedly liberal press as the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Los Angeles Times. The story soon disappeared entirely, and Washington and the media proceeded to pretend as though nothing had ever happened. According to a Washington Times reporter, the paper trail was quickly covered up. Some 20,000 documents pertaining to the case were sealed by court order, and the U.S. Attorney's Office issued a gag order on the release of information. By the time that Craig Spence turned up dead in a Boston hotel less than 5 months after the story first broke, he had been all but forgotten. He had earlier told a friend, I may be disappearing soon. It will be sudden. It may appear to be a suicide, but it won't be. Does history repeat itself?
Yo, I've heard it rhymes.
Yeah, it rhymes. It rhymes. Spence. Stents. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we could probably. We could probably leave it there. Short night, folks. All right, we'll see you next. No, we're not.
Yeah,
we're gonna keep going.
Yeah.
Spence was reportedly found lying on his bed in room 429 of the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, wearing a tuxedo and with a telephone cradled to his ear and a Walkman headset around his neck. He had, according to The Independent, no obvious signs of injury, and police refused to comment on the cause of death. The door to the room was barricaded. Written on a mirror were several messages, one of which read, Chief, consider this my resignation, effective immediately. As you always said, you can't ask others to make a sacrifice if you're not ready to do the same. Life is duty. God bless America. Another was an apology to the hotel. To the Ritz, please forgive this inconvenience. A third was an unexplained Japanese phrase. Nisei Bay. The hotel registry showed that the room the apparent suicide victim was found in was occupied by C.S. Kane. Huh. Okay. Spence had been subpoenaed by a grand jury, but had not yet been called to appear. As it turned out, very few witnesses ever did appear before that grand jury. Spence had also reportedly agreed to provide Penthouse magazine with lurid details on Washington's bisexual wonderland. His story, needless to say, was never told. The callboy ring, oddly enough, had close ties to the funeral home and mortuary business. Robert, it's always good to have a crematory on hand, isn't it? Robert Chambers was convicted on charges of handling the credit card processing for Professional Services Incorporated, an entity that served as cover for the interlinked network of half a dozen mail escort services. Chambers was a funeral director and the son of the owner of the Chambers Funeral Homes chain. He was sentenced to serve 41 months. Two of the linked services, Dream Boys and Man to Man, were reportedly run by Henry Vinson, a mortician and former coroner of Mingo County, West Virginia. Vinson had moved to D.C. after losing his job as a coroner for making harassing phone calls to rival funeral homes. I don't even know. I would love to know what those calls said. Like, you're a shit embalmer. You ought to be ashamed. Those flowers looked whack. Like, how do you harass a funeral home? While he was under investigation in Washington, his obituary appeared in West Virginia newspapers, apparently as the result of an assisted effort to fake his death. Vinson ultimately pled guilty and received a 63-month sentence. The presiding judge openly criticized U.S. Attorney Jay Stevens for departing from mandatory sentencing guidelines. Vinson's legal representation was provided by Fox News mouthpiece Greta Van Susteren. Also implicated in the case was Democratic Congressman Barney Frank, whose D.C. home was used as a base of operations for an escort service from late 1985 through mid-1987. The service was run by Frank's lover, Stephen L. Goby, the son of a Marine Corps Master Sergeant and Pentagon budget analyst. Frank wrote a number of letters to probation officials on behalf of Goby, who had 4 felony convictions from 1982. Those letters provided the necessary cover for the ring, which Frank denied having knowledge of. Goby also regularly operated out of Chevy Chase Elementary School in collusion with the Magnet School's principal, Gabriel A. Massaro, a former school counselor. The school was home to 350 students aged 9 to 12. Massaro vigorously denied any students were involved in the callboy operations, which he eventually admitted were run from the school. In addition to Barney Frank and Gabriel Massaro, Stephen Goby had close ties to Craig Spence as well. Let's see. Randall Shirker says, keep in mind, Bryant's gone on the record stating that he thinks Spence's ring was far worse than Epstein's. You can see how, right? Elsewhere in the country, a political operative named Larry King, not that one, hailed as the fastest rising black star in the Republican Party. Oh, great.
Hell yeah. We hadn't yet learned our trick of just getting old football players.
Right. Or Nicki Minaj. Was embroiled in another high-level pedophile ring. King, whose operation was based in Omaha, Nebraska, had connections to Craig Spence, as well as to Ronald Reagan, George Bush, Ollie North, and various other major players in Washington. The King story first began to emerge with the collapse of his Franklin Community Credit Union, one of many such entities that went belly up in the 1980s savings and loan scandal. Excuse me. Sorry. A special Senate Franklin committee was established and tasked with looking into allegations of financial improprieties, but soon found itself instead investigating claims of child prostitution, CP, and ritual homicide. Committee members began receiving anonymous threats. Wow, how expected. The investigation led to the doorsteps of some of the most powerful men in Omaha, including, where's Berkshire Hathaway based out of?
Oh God, somewhere. Oh, it's Omaha.
It's Omaha, Nebraska. That's right. One of the most powerful men in Omaha. Hey kid, you want to get in the van? We got C's Candies and Coca-Cola. Including newspaper publisher Harold Anderson, a lunch partner of George Bush, local columnist Peter Citron, a judge, the mayor, the city's Games and Parks commissioner, a prominent attorney, the former police chief, businessman Alan Bayer, and multi-billionaire Warren Buffett. Hey, there we go. For whose son King sponsored a political fundraiser. Some of the victims and witnesses identified George Bush as being directly complicit. The scandal was completely ignored by the national U.S. media and appears to have been covered by the local press for the sole purpose of discrediting the witnesses and denouncing the investigation as yet another witch hunt. The case did attract some attention from the European press, though. Pronto, Spain's largest circulation weekly, reported that the scandal appears to directly implicate politicos of the state of Nebraska and Washington, D.C., who are very close to the White House and George Bush. The report also noted that there is reason to believe that the CIA is directly implicated every time and the FBI refuses to help in the investigation and has sabotaged any efforts by others to do so. Every time. A documentary film from the UK's Yorkshire Television, working in conjunction with the Discovery Channel, worked for months investigating the case. The result of their efforts was a film entitled Conspiracy of Silence, which concluded that the child victims and witnesses were telling the truth. The documentary was scheduled to air on the Discovery Channel on May 3rd, 1994. Just days before the scheduled airing, the film was pulled without explanation and all copies were ordered destroyed. At least one production copy of the video survived the purge, however, and has been known to circulate amongst those derisively labeled as conspiracy theorists. For everyone else, the conspiracy of silence continues, close to a Wendogism, but not quite.
Not quite.
Let's see. 4 clubs. I wish I wasn't burdened by the knowledge of this shit fuckery. Well, you are here. You are here of your own accord. And you will never forget this. Let's see. Randall Shirker. Bryant wrote his stuff after talking to John DeCamp and doing some digging around that place. DeCamp's book on the scandal really does connect it to all the other stuff. Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is... Why would the people who are in charge of the entire world subject themselves to any scrutiny or embarrassment?
No.
Why would they? You know, what's in it for them?
Nobody's going to call it a conspiracy, so they don't have to worry.
Yeah. What's in it for them? The Council on Foreign Relations, every single one of them was a diddler. I'm going to say it right now. Allegedly in Minecraft. Yeah. Actually, no, for real, though. They probably all fuck kids. Let's see. All right. The Omaha operation, described in the film as a large ring of rich and powerful pedophiles, appears to have been in business for several years, with the knowledge of and for the perverse pleasure of a variety of city, state, and federal authorities. Jerry Lowe, the first investigator assigned to the case by the Franklin Committee, reported back. The allegations regarding the exploitation of children are indeed disturbing. What appears to be documented cases of child abuse and sexual abuse dating back several years, with no enforcement action being taken by the appropriate agencies, is, on its face, mind-boggling. The investigation revealed that many of the child victims had been recruited from one of America's most revered charitable organizations, Boys Town, with which King maintained a close tie since 1979. Senator and committee member Lauren Schmidt has said that Boys Town was mentioned frequently during the investigation, but we found it difficult to get information about Boys Town. So too did the film crew from Yorkshire Television. Republican State Senator and Franklin Committee member John DeCamp, in his book, The Franklin Cover-Up, presents a compelling body of evidence to document the charges made by the child victims and various others associated with the operation. Equally disturbing is the evidence presented of the massive cover-up that was perpetrated by the FBI, local police, a grand jury assigned to the case, and of course, the ever-compliant media. The cover-up involved, according to DeCamp, the untimely deaths of at least 15 key players in the scandal, including Franklin Committee investigator Gary Caradori, whose private plane was blown out of the sky on July 11th, 1990, with Caradori and his 8-year-old son on board. Caradori had been threatened frequently, as had the witnesses from whom he was gathering information. His vehicle had also been repeatedly tampered with. His brother claimed that Gary had told him that he had recently come to possess a key piece of evidence, a book of addresses and phone numbers, that was so damaging. If he knew he had it, they'd kill him. If they knew he had it. This type of thing, like, if you have that, you should just publish it immediately, right? I mean, it'd be difficult to do that back then, but like nowadays, if you get your hands on it, it's just like, I mean, I guess that's why Julian Assange was like basically, imprisoned in for so long, right? Just because of WikiLeaks. The wreckage of Caradori's plane, as a reporter on the scene noted, was strewn over 3/4 to 1 mile stretch. A National Transportation Safety Board investigator acknowledged that the fact that the wreckage is scattered over a large area certainly demonstrates that it did break up in flight. Family members claim that there were items missing from the plane's wreckage, most significantly Caradori's briefcase. Within 24 hours of the crash, all of his records had been impounded by the FBI. Nevertheless, NTSB ruled that the crash had been accidental, with no evidence of sabotage. The Franklin Committee, led by Senator Schmidt, who suspected sabotage, ordered a private investigation into the cause of the crash. Strangely enough, the man selected to conduct that inquiry was William Colby, a 50-year veteran of intelligence operations whose career began in the OSS during World War II. Colby's hiring was urged by his protege, Senator DeCamp. In the 1950s, Colby served as CIA station chief in Italy, overseeing the notorious Operation Gladio. In the 1960s, he ran the Phoenix program, a campaign of assassination, torture, and terror that claimed, by Colby's own account, some 20,000 Vietnamese lives. The program was steeped in mind control operations, including the use of prisoners of war as unwilling participants in terminal experiments. One of Colby's top aides in Vietnam was none other than John DeCamp. After Vietnam, Colby served as the director of the CIA under President Nixon. Nixon's appointed successor, Gerald Ford, replaced him with George Bush. Considering his past history, Colby was certainly an odd choice to lead an inquiry aimed at ascertaining the truth. Colby's conclusion, according to the Omaha World Herald, was that although the crash had some strange aspects, there was no specific evidence of sabotage, which that is a statement that could mean fucking anything, right? Like, you could, what do you mean specific evidence of sabotage? Like a note that says, I caused the fuel pump to, I don't know, double the amount that was going into the engine, causing it to explode, or I planted a bomb. Like, what do you mean? There are lots of ways to make a plane explode in flight, right? Just as appalling as the trail of dead witnesses was the fact that the child victims, rather than the perpetrators, were arrested and thrown in prison. It's kind of like what's happening in the UK right now, actually. One of them, a young female victim, achieved the rather dubious honor of spending more time in solitary confinement than any other woman in the history of the Nebraska penal system. She was sentenced to 9 to 25 years in prison for allegedly committing perjury. Holy shit!
That's a lot.
Her sentence was 10 years longer than the one Larry King received for looting his financial institution of $40 million. DeCamp explained that the conspiracy of silence film grew that a message was being sent to every kid who is a potential witness. Senator Schmidt, who told the filmmakers that his pursuit of the investigation had cost him his career and his financial security, believed that a clear signal was being sent to Nebraska politicians as well, a signal to not pursue the investigation any further. A visibly shaken and disillusioned Schmidt explained that to the film crew that he used to be a firm believer that the system would work and that people who did things wrong would be punished. And we discovered victims who claimed to have been abused and who the grand jury acknowledged had been abused. But they did not try to find out who had abused these individuals. Instead, they convicted Alicia Owen of perjury, indefensible from my point of view. It was a full decade before any of the victims received even a semblance of justice. And that came not from the criminal justice system, but from a civil court. In early 1999, a judgment was entered against defendant Larry King in favor of plaintiff Paul Bonacci, who was one of the most severely abused of the child victims. His abuse at the hands of King began when he was just 6 years old and included forced collaboration in the production of child snuff films. The memorandum of the district's court's decision, issued on February 22nd, 1999, reads as follows. Between December 1980 and 1988, the complaint alleges the defendant King continually subjected the plaintiff to repeated sexual assaults, false imprisonments, infliction of extreme emotional distress, organized and directed satanic rituals, forced the plaintiff to scavenge for children to be a part of the defendant King's sexual abuse and pornography ring, forced the plaintiff to engage in numerous sexual contacts with the defendant King and others, and participate in deviant sexual games and masochistic orgies with other minor children. The defendant King's default has made those allegations true as to him. The now uncontradicted evidence, so it was a default judgment, so he didn't fight it in court. The now uncontradicted evidence is that the plaintiff has suffered much. He has suffered burns, broken fingers, beatings of the head and face, and other indignities by the wrongful actions of the defendant King, in addition to the misery of going through the experiences just related over a period of 8 years. The plaintiff has suffered the lingering results to the present time. He is a victim of multiple personality disorder, involving as many as 14 distinct personalities, aside from his primary personality. He has given up a desired military career and received threats on his life. He suffers from sleeplessness, has bad dreams, has difficulty in holding a job, is fearful that others are following him, fears getting killed, has depressing flashbacks, and is verbally violent on occasion, all in connection with the multiple personality disorder and caused by the wrongful activities of defendant King. For the years of unspeakable abuse he suffered, Bonacci was awarded $1 million. While a bittersweet victory at best, it was considerably more than most other victims of such abuse have gotten. The man primarily responsible for inflicting that abuse, Larry King, has been released from prison and is a free man at the time of this writing. Yeah. Gross.
What'd you do?
What?
I thought you like coughed up a booger or something.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't cough up anything. I'm just like, the whole thing is very disgusting. Four Clubs asks, what compels someone to create snuff films?
You know, I wonder that all the time.
Do you?
I think about it 3 times a day.
Oh God!
Like it's just be walking to be snuff films here.
There could be snuff films here. Just like he thought. I hate snuff films.
Yeah.
I'm yeah, I mean extreme sadism, I guess, obviously, is what compels someone to create snuff films. I mean, unfortunately, it is kind of the case that a lot of the people who do these things were victims themselves. And so you kind of think, you're creating monsters by being a monster. It's like literally sexually transmitted. And it makes you, just kind of, unfortunately, it's almost like correct to say that the victims in these cases need to be watched like hawks.
Yeah.
And I mean, that sounds cruel, right? But
it would just be what it is.
But it is kind of just the case that unfortunately they got bitten by the vampire, and so you gotta make sure they don't bite anyone else. There's is a snuff film more, is it more or less reasonable? That's probably that's definitely the wrong word than the sexual abuse of children, right?
Yeah.
What's more beyond the pale, right? Obviously both is the worst possible outcome, which is in fact what's on the table here. But yeah, it's a thought process that I hope none of us can really understand phenomenologically. So, let's see. H's Top Guy LMD Christmas special. That's true. This one's for the kids. Yeah. Let's see. All right. These are footnotes from earlier in the section. Oh, actually, that's interesting that it goes back and forth. That's handy. We'll use that later. All right. This is about the Dark brothers. Some other interesting facts about Dark emerged from the Esquire profile, such as that he was raised by a Satanist father who used to read to Gregory from the works of Aleister Crowley, the noted occultist, when Gregory was very young. His father's collection of black magic books is one of Dark's most cherished possessions. Also revealed was that Dark is a master manipulator, as he candidly admitted to his interviewer. And the thing is, I like manipulating people. I'm comfortable manipulating people. I'm good at it. Yeah, I'm a manipulator. Junod added that during Dark's porno days, he asked people to do things, curious things, and they did them. Such is the nature of the man who helps craft the images of America's teen sex symbols and market them to millions of preteen fans. Britney Spears later revealed to Esquire an interesting detail of her family life. When I was 13 years old, I used to walk around my house completely naked. My family just always walked around the house naked. We were earthy people. Britney Spears, as we all now know, is a fucking loony.
Yeah, but right? She's from Kentwood though, so like it's like one of those things where like, is she crazy or is she just a red nag?
Yeah, fair enough. However, still,
yeah,
loony is probably an abuse victim. Let's see. According to the publication Only in Russia, so let's see. This is number 2, which was a note on. I don't see where it is on this page. There's 3 just down there. 2 is here. Sex tourism. Note on sex tourism. According to the publication Only in Russia, globalization has been accompanied by another dramatic rise in an already crime-ridden country. Russia's interior ministry has identified yet another malefactor to be dealt with: the devil. Deputy chief, it's ultimately the only one. Deputy chief of the ministry's main crime directorate, Alexander Grashenin, informed the press on February 3rd, 2003, that a special department has been set up to investigate the activities of Satanist sects. He said that the ministry was very worried by the country's descent into the ways of black magic and devil worship, adding that Satanists often conduct ritual sacrifices and, in some cases, their activities involve serious crimes like murder or grievous bodily harm. The tone of the article was decidedly skeptical. And then let's see, number 3, the trafficking of children, both nationally and internationally, is an immense and immensely profitable criminal enterprise. Note on that, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, released a report on July 30th, 2003 that declared that 1.2 million children are trafficked every year, creating a $10 billion a year industry. The report's authors concluded trafficking is a truly global problem affecting all countries everywhere. Footnote 4, which is on this page somewhere. I can't find it. Right here. This is on Spence being a blowhard. DeGenova served in 1975 to 1976 as counsel to the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, commonly referred to as the Church Committee. He later served as U.S. Attorney under President Ronald Reagan. During that time, and after purportedly leaving government service for private practice, he frequently attended Spence parties. In December 1988, he accompanied Spence on a business trip to Japan. Tan Singh, DeGenova's wife, a former Deputy Assistant Attorney General for the Justice Department and a former Chief Counsel for the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence from 1981 to 1984. Both were investigated for their close links to Craig Spence. Both later made almost daily appearances on cable newscasts as shrill proponents of the Clinton impeachment proceedings. Interesting. You know what? The whole like Clinton getting impeached for the Monica Lewinsky thing being an op is a conspiracy theory I haven't really looked into, but I'm interested to hear more. In addition to Barney Frank and Gabriel Massaro, Stephen Goby had close ties to Craig Spence as well. Footnote on that. Vinson later reportedly married Dr. Diane Schaefer, who was appointed to fill Mingo County coroner position that he had once held. Schaefer had previously been convicted of bribery in Kentucky. Her appointment came just after the reversal of the appointment of Gerald Chafin, a mortuary owner and former Mingo County sheriff who had twice been indicted on federal wiretap charges. What the fuck is going on with all of these morticians? Boy. There was Randall Shirker. There was just so much wrong with the Clintons going on at that time, even before the Clinton body count is considered. It's true. They like, I don't know if they're just like really hubristic and sloppy, or if there's actually faction war going on and trying to pin anything on the Clintons. You know what I mean? All right. Chapter 3. We're an hour and a half in, and we're gonna keep plugging away at this. How are you feeling, Sandbatch?
Not good.
Not good. This is a rough one.
I'm about to fall asleep, if you want to know the truth. But that doesn't have all that much to do with the book.
Oh my God. How
the book's not helping. I was like, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was like, God damn, all these people know how to do is talk about drugs and sex cults, and then I'm like here nodding off, listening to we're talking about sex cults.
Sex cults sounds like Tuesday. That's the Sandbatch take.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like, I mean, it is of course salacious. I mean, you've read this book before, correct?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this
the only one of his books I've read is the Laurel Canyon one.
Okay. Strange Times. Yeah, I have those two, but program. This is a notoriously rough read, and it's been some years since I read it again, since I read it before, and I definitely have more active connections, right?
Yeah.
Going on now. That it's sort of being read with a purpose, but it's also like, it's attempting to inject any amount of levity into this is a fucking nightmare, because the story is a fucking nightmare, right? I mean, what can we really say? But yeah, Shirker. The Laurel Canyon book is a follow-up to this one, ironically enough. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Chapter 3, Uncle Sam Wants Your Children. I cannot accept promotion in a system that first refused to acknowledge and now refuses to deal with the victims of extensive child abuse that occurred at the West Point Child Development Center. Army Captain Walter R. Grote, refusing a promotion to major in June 1985. One of the names that surfaced at the Bonacci trial was that of Michael Aquino, the high priest and chief executive of the Temple of Set, an overtly satanic cult that split off from the Church of Satan in 1975. Besides tending to those duties, Aquino has also been known to occupy his time serving as, according to his official biography circulated by the temple, a lieutenant colonel, military intelligence of U.S. Army. Do you know what this guy looks like?
No, what does he look like?
All right. If you saw a picture of this guy, and I'm pulling up a picture. Hold on. Does this guy look like someone who is trustworthy?
He looked like the guy that taught ROTC in my high school, but like that's about right.
No one would cultivate those fucking eyebrows who was not like, they look like devil horns.
This is true.
Like, come the fuck on. I think that being a theistic Satanist should be grounds for dismissal from the armed services. I don't know. Maybe that's a wild take, but being a but this guy is a famously bizarre looking son of a bitch. So completely untrustworthy. Like the physiognomy is not lying. Yeah. So and 4 clubs, that would be freedom of religion. Same amendment. But also, like, fuck that. You're a theistic Satanist. It doesn't count. It is not the same. Yeah. Also, the Temple of Set has isn't the Temple of Set registered as a criminal organization, or is that just 09A?
Just 09A. Why do I know that?
I mean, in the first series, when we were reading Aberration in the Heartland of the Real, you did discuss some of your background with people O9A people sort of insinuating themselves into your life.
Here's the way it works.
That's the way it worked. That's how they get you. Yeah. All right. Aquino was identified in court by the mother of a victim as being a key player in the nationwide pedophile ring. Yeah, it's real easy to pick that guy out of a lineup. Paul Bonacci himself has also positively identified Aquino as an associate of King, who was known to Bonacci and the rest of the children only as the Colonel. King's former personal photography has identified Aquino as the man to whom he saw King hand over a suitcase full of cash and bonds. The photographer, Rusty Nelson, has also said that he was told by King that Aquino was part of the Contra guns and cocaine trafficking operation run by George Bush and another notorious lieutenant colonel named Ollie North. Aquino has also been linked to Offutt Air Force Base, a strategic air command post near Omaha that was implicated in the investigation by the Franklin Committee. And that was also, strangely enough, where George W. Bush opted to hide out on the afternoon of September 11th, 2001. Aquino was also claimed to have ordered the abduction of a Des Moines, Iowa paperboy. He does the face of a man who would abduct a paperboy. Like, I want that paperboy. This fucking guy. He kind of looks like a lady. Like, it's the fact that his face is just sort of arranged just so it's just like a little feminine, right? That makes it worse, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like that makes it more disgusting. Yeah, Michael Aquino, ladies and gentlemen, Michael Aquino. This was certainly not the first time that Aquino had been identified as a key figure in organized pedophile and child pornography rings. You'd think that the first time would be pretty fatal to his career, but you're wrong. In July 1988, not long before the King and Spence cases broke, the San Jose Mercury News ran a lengthy expose on the Presidio Child Development Center, run by the U.S. Army in San Francisco. Every fucking thing that happens in San Francisco is bad.
Yeah.
Like everything.
Yeah.
If a nonprofit is located in San Francisco, it is doing something fucking horrible.
That's
right?
So true.
I don't care if it's a goddamn art museum. It's doing something that, like, it's, I don't know, smuggling demonic sigils into graphic design. That's what it's doing. Sure. Like, we're going to go with that. Right. And also getting paid in, I don't know, babies, you know, like it doesn't seem beyond the pale. So anyhow, run by U.S. Army in San Francisco, allegations of abuse. Like the free clinic, the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic, open until 2019.
I've been
right?
there.
After Chaos came out. Well, you're an MKUltra subject. Sorry, bud.
Of course I am.
Yeah, run by the CIA until 2019 when Chaos was released and made it too notorious for them to continue. and closed without ceremony. Run for 50 fucking years. So anyway, allegations of abuse being perpetrated at the center first emerged in November 1986. Alarmed by accusations made by her child, a parent had sought a medical examination that confirmed that her 3-year-old boy had in fact been anally raped. Cool. The boy identified his rapist as Mr. Gary, a teacher at the center named Gary Hambright. Terrible name. Even with this conclusive medical evidence, however, it took the Army almost a month to notify the parents of other children who had been in Mr. Gary's class that the incident had taken place. Within a year, at least 60 additional victims had been identified. All between the ages of 3 and 7. Further allegations would be made by parents that several more children were molested even after the investigation had begun. Amazingly enough, the center remained open for more than a year after the first case of abuse was reported. Although, as noted by the Mercury News, daycare centers under state jurisdiction are routinely closed when an abuse incident is confirmed. And this was considerably more than a simple abuse incident that had been confirmed. The children told stories that implicated many other perpetrators in addition to Hambright. They also told of being taken away from the center to be abused in private homes. At least 3 such houses were positively identified. And they told of being forced to play poo-poo baseball and the goo-goo game, games that involved the children being urinated and defecated upon, and being forced to ingest urine and feces. Many of the children also spoke of having had guns pointed at them, and of being told that they or their parents and siblings would be killed if they told anyone what had been done to them. Yeah. Despite the mounting number of victims and witnesses and the numerous crimes alleged by these children, only one suspect, Gary Hambright, was arrested on January 5th, 1987. He was charged with abusing just a single child. Even then, the charges were dismissed just a few months later in March 1987. There is little doubt that literally dozens of children were in fact severely abused at the center. There undeniably was medical evidence to document that fact. 5 of the children had contracted chlamydia, a sexually transmitted disease.
Oops.
Many others showed clear signs of anal and genital trauma consistent with violent penetration. Authorities chose to ignore such evidence. One mother complained to the San Francisco Chronicle that the FBI never interviewed her or her son, even after doctors had confirmed the boy's abuse. In addition to the medical symptoms, there were psychological symptoms as well. As the American Journal of Orthopsychiatry noted in 1992, the severity of the trauma for children at the Presidio was immediately manifest in clear-cut symptoms. Before the abuse was exposed, parents had already noticed the following changes in their children: vaginal discharge, genital soreness, rashes, fear of the dark, sleep disturbances, nightmares, sexually provocative language, and sexually inappropriate behavior. In addition, the children were exhibiting other radical changes in behavior, including temper outbursts, sudden mood shifts, and poor impulse control. All these behavioral symptoms are to be expected in preschool children who have been molested. Oh, boy. The journal article written by Diane Aronsoft, PhD, also noted that the Presidio case has confronted both the public at large and mental health community with an extraordinary and abhorrent situation of grave psychological proportions. The willful molestation of young boys and girls by representatives of the most patriarchal and supposedly protective arm of the American government, the U.S. Army. Aaron Schaft observed that I really hate the use of patriarchal in there, but not as much as the molestation. Aaron Schaff observed that nearly pathological hatred had manifested itself in the fathers of children abused in this way. Very healthy, particularly as they saw their children's case stonewalled and swept under the rug. One father was quoted as saying, "When something about the Presidio comes on TV, I want to blow someone away. Another father echoed that sentiment. I was ready to blow the army base away. Wow. Crazy, isn't it? What a completely reasonable response. One of those who the fathers would have liked to blow away was Michael Aquino. One child positively identified Aquino and his wife Lilith, known to the kids as Mickey and Shamby, and was also able to identify Aquino's private home and to describe with considerable accuracy the distinctively satanic interior of the house. The young witness claimed to have been photographed at the Aquino's home. On August 14th, 1987, a search warrant was served on the house. Confiscated in the raid were numerous videotapes, photographs, photo albums, photographic negatives, cassette tapes, and names and address books. Also observed was what appeared to be a soundproof room. Neither of the Aquinos was charged with any crimes, nor have they been to this day, a fact that Aquino points to as proof of his innocence. A month after the raid, a fire, which the Army described to be accidental, destroyed the Army Community Services building adjacent to the Presidio's daycare center. Strangely enough, the fire occurred on the autumnal equinox, a major event on the satanic calendar. As the Mercury News noted, the fire also destroyed some of the Child Development Center's records. 3 weeks later, fire struck again, this time at the daycare center itself. A building that housed 4 classrooms, one of which was Gary Hambright's, was completely destroyed. Investigators from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms determined both fires, contrary to the Army's finding, had been arson. In between the first and second fires, with evidence indicating that a third arson attempt had been made as well. Hambright was again indicted, this time charged with molesting 10 children. In February 1988, all but one of the new charges were dropped. Shortly thereafter, the remaining count was dropped as well. No further charges were dropped against him. Yeah. I wonder if Gary Hambright's out there. Wonder where old Gary Hambright is. Gary Hambright is.
It's the director of NASA.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh wow. He was also a Southern Baptist minister.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, he died. He died of old age. Yeah.
Yeah. How did he die? How bad was it? Fat and happy. That's how he died.
Yeah, he died peacefully in his sleep of old age, surrounded by victims. In January 1988, Aquino filed suit against the Army to have it cleared from his record that he had been investigated as a suspected pedophile. He wanted it to be known that he was a full pedophile. In January 1988, Aquino filed suit against the Army. According to court records, he also had the gall to charge Captain Adams Thompson, the father of a victim, with conduct unbecoming of an officer, because the captain reported the allegations of child abuse to the San Francisco police. In denying Aquino's motion, the court concluded there was probable cause to title Aquino with offenses of indecent acts with a child, sodomy, conspiracy, kidnapping, and false swearing. Despite the fact that the San Francisco Police Department closed its investigation and filed no charges against the plaintiff or anyone else. Aquino and some of his defenders have consistently claimed that no one was ever prosecuted in the case due to lack of evidence. This is cited as proof of the entire affair was no more than a witch hunt. Of course, the failure to... Well, I mean, you found a witch. You literally found a witch in your witch hunt. Is an avowed witch. He's a high priest of Set. Like... Okay. Said it is proof the entire affair was no more than a witch hunt. Of course, the failure to prosecute the federal charges could have been due to the fact that at the time, the U.S. attorney in San Francisco handling the case was Joseph Rusaniello. Rusaniello would later be identified by reporter Gary Webb of the San Jose Mercury News as a player in the Contra cocaine smuggling operation led by Lieutenant Colonel Ollie North and company, just as witnesses would later identify Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino as the operative in the very same sordid affair. Shirker gives us a super chat for $10. None of these people ever face the music, and folks wonder why no one has faith in government anymore, and why folks go full rage mode when they try to lessen things like Epstein. Yeah, frankly, like the Epstein thing, which appears to have been, obviously sex trafficking and obviously molestation, but for the express purposes of getting compromat and serving the intelligence communities of probably ours and probably Israel and probably another fucking country.
Yeah.
For being for temporal means like that, it makes it a little less horrifying than like literal satanic ritual abuse. But who the fuck knows? Maybe he was doing that too. Maybe that's in one of the many redactions. I just normal people could run governments. Like, it's possible for normal people to run governments.
Yeah.
You just have to clean house, and there are ways of doing that that I'm not going to list.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
extrajudicial violence.
Yeah. Shirker, seriously, people who are trying to downplay Epstein are just proving who was an enemy the entire time. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Let's see. In May 1989, Aquino was again questioned in connection with child abuse investigations. This time, at least 5 children in 3 cities were making the accusations. The children had seen Aquino in a newspaper and television coverage of the Presidio case and immediately recognized him as one of their abusers. Yeah, because fucking look at the guy. 3 of the children lived in Ukiah, California, where police chief Fred Keplinger was overseeing the investigation of the allegations. In the Mercury News, quoted the chief as saying, "The children are believable. I have no doubt in my mind that something has occurred." Aquino was also identified as the children in Santa Rosa and Fort Bragg, California. In the Fort Bragg case, allegations of ritual abuse erupted in 1985 when several children at the Jubilation Daycare Center said they were sexually abused by a number of people at the daycare center and several locations away from the center, including at least 2 churches. Aquino was identified as having been present at one of those churches. I mean, like, what else could, what else could you say? I don't know. According to the Mercury News, there was clear evidence of satanic cult activity on the grounds of the Presidio base, including an abundance of satanic graffiti, a satanic altar. Yeah, well, that would be open and shut evidence. And numerous artifacts of satanic rituals. A former MP at the base told the news, "We've got a cult on the Presidio of San Francisco and nobody cares about it. We were told by the provost marshal to just forget about it." On April 19th, 1988, the eve of Adolf Hitler's birthday.
Damn, that was again.
Once again,
it's like not even his actual birthday. It's the day before his birthday.
Yeah, the eve. It's
2 weeks before
Hitler. It's Hitler Miss Eve. Like, God. Remember, kids, put out your pile of shoes. On the eve of Adolf Hitler's birthday, an open house was held on the grounds of the Presidio, heralding the opening of a new daycare facility built to replace the fire-damaged Child Development Center. Meanwhile, a report in the Marin Independent Journal, revealed that Aquino owned a building in Marin County, inherited from his mother, Betty Ford Aquino, that was jointly leased to the Marin County Child Abuse Council and Project Care for Children. Great. The stated purpose of Project Care was, interestingly enough, to assist parents in locating daycare for their children. don't send your kids to daycare, right? Like, just don't send your kids to daycare, because if it's not a satanic cult fucking them, right? You're just putting them in the hands of like people who are probably not like you, who don't give a shit about them, right? And probably hate you and probably don't want the best for your children. Don't send your kids to daycare. Like, just don't do it. Just go without the second income. Like, don't put your kids in daycare. Give them a family member is better. Like, don't put your kids in daycare. As disturbing as the Presidio case was, it was just one of many ritual abuse cases directly tied to one or more branches of the United States Armed Forces. As the Mercury News reported, by November 1987, the Army had received allegations of child abuse at 15 of its daycare centers and several elementary schools. There were also at least 2 cases in the Air Force daycare. So I feel like if you commit a crime like this under the auspices of the military, you should just be shot. Like, it should be, like if you use, I mean, like, honestly, like if you commit like fraud under the auspices of the official of the state, right? Like in China, you get executed, like you get shot in public. That's what should happen. If you are a public official and you do something like this, you should be shot in public. It's fine. Like, yeah. Just shoot them in public. All of your victims' parents should be able to like get a shot in, until you're really pulpy. Yeah. Let's see. Randall Scher, reminder, McGowan was a lefty who thought the U.S. was unironically a fascist police state. Yeah, I mean, I know he's a lefty. But he's, I mean, how wrong was he, really? Yeah. Let's see here. All right. Another center. Yeah. In addition, daycare elementary schools. There were also at least 2 cases in Air Force daycare centers and another in a center run by the U.S. Navy. In addition, a special team of experts was sent to Panama in June 1988 to help determine if as many as 10 children at a Department of Defense elementary school had been molested and possibly infected with AIDS. Yet another case emerged in a U.S.-run facility in West Germany. You know what? You know where I bet this type of shit didn't happen? East Germany. I bet it didn't happen in East Germany. And when it did...
No, it totally did.
I'm sure... I bet it got nipped in the bud. I bet if you got caught doing this shit in East Germany, you were fucked. Like, proper.
Maybe.
You don't think this is... You don't think this is a disease? You don't think this is a disease of capitalism?
No. Well, I think communism is a type of capitalism.
I mean, it's a type of liberalism, just like
it inherits from capitalism.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. These cases erupted at some of the country's most esteemed military bases, including Fort Dix, Rimshot, Fort Leavenworth, Fort Jackson, and West Point. Many of those making the accusations were career military officers who had devoted their lives to unquestioned allegiance to the U.S. Armed Forces. Many would resign their post in outraged protest. Well, leaving, meaning that everyone who was left was a pedophile. The West Point case, among others, was alleged to be linked to the Presidio case. As the Times Herald Record reported in June 1991, the incidents at the West Point Child Development Center unfolded against a backdrop of satanic acts and animal sacrifices and cult-like behavior among the abusers, whose activities extended beyond the U.S. Military Academy borders to Orange County and a military base in San Francisco, parents charged. The case first broke in July 1984 when a 3-year-old girl found herself in an emergency room of the West Point Hospital with a lacerated vagina. A 3-year-old. She told the examining physician that a teacher at the daycare center had hurt her. The next month, the parents of another child leveled accusations of abuse at the center. As the Mercury News reported, by the end of the year, 50 children had been interviewed by investigators. Children at West Point told stories that would become horrifyingly familiar. They said they had been ritually abused. They said they had excrement smeared on their bodies and had been forced to eat feces and drink urine. They said they were taken away from the daycare center and photographed. Despite abundant medical and psychological evidence and literally dozens of child witnesses, and despite 950 interviews by 60 FBI agents assigned to the investigation, led by former U.S. Attorney and future Mayor Rudy Giuliani, produced no federal grand jury indictments. According to the Herald Record, in 1987, Giuliani said his detailed investigation showed only 1 or 2 children who were abused. Giuliani's contention was directly contradicted by independent investigations, as the Herald report divulged. A still secret, independent report produced by one of the nation's top experts on child sexual abuse confirms the children's accusations of abuse. Giuliani, complicated figure in history, sometimes reviled, sometimes admired. He definitely is willing to run cover for some gross shit, and did so for the Epstein thing as well. And obviously has been recorded with underage girls very recently. So not a 3-year-old, not doing ritual abuse to them, obviously, but this was not the first time that prestigious West Point had shown an appalling willingness to overlook military personnel directing extreme levels of abuse at children. A year before the abuse case broke, a 22-month-old child was murdered by an Army staff sergeant. The Mercury News reported that following a court-martial hearing, the sergeant was given an 18-month suspended sentence and a dishonorable discharge. Should be fucking murdered. In other words, he was essentially given a free ride after murdering not a child, this baby, murdering an infant. With help from Giuliani, the FBI, and the U.S. Army, and the grand jury, the abusers of dozens of children at the daycare center, which was, appropriately enough, building number 666 on the Academy grounds, were likewise given a free ride. Just don't use that. Just skip that number when you're numbering things. Just skip it. As with the Franklin case, the children and their parents found justice only through the civil courts. The Herald Record revealed that in a suit brought by the parents, lawyers for both the government and the 11 child plaintiffs agreed that some children were sexually abused at the center 2 years ago. The government, however, claimed that it could not be held responsible due to the assault exemption in the Federal Tort Claim Act. As the New York Times explained, under federal law, the government can't be held liable for assaults committed by its employees and thus cannot be sued for assault. In other words, the Army didn't dispute the allegations. It just rather cavalierly maintained that it was exempt from being sued for what had occurred at one of its daycare centers. The court saw otherwise, however, and awarded $2.7 million to 9 of the child victims. Paltry compensation for their suffering, but a victory of sorts nonetheless. The Times opined that the settlement amount was large for a child abuse case in which no criminal charges were filed. The article claimed that the case was not pursued because the Federal Bureau of Investigation found insufficient evidence to prosecute, when in fact the Bureau appears to have deliberately ignored and or covered up that evidence. And so ended the West Point case, except that, as one mother noted, it was hardly over. These people stole our children. She's nothing like she used to be. She's a very angry little girl. She doesn't trust anyone. She's nothing like she was before this happened. It's never going to be over for them or for us. The mother of a Presidio victim had this to say: people keep telling us we've got to let go, just forget about it and go on. 3 weeks ago, our youngest daughter was having nightmares, and our other daughter was closing out the whole world, going to her room and sitting there with no radio, no TV, no nothing. You tell me it's over. Oh boy. Do I have it in me? Do I have it in me? Boy. Hey guys, how do we feel about the title McMolestation? Is that a good one? That's like a little Sandbatch, are you dead or asleep?
Oh no, I'm here. I've been talking. How many
You haven't
pages
said
are in this book?
anything.
How many pages are no? I was muted again. I told you I was
Oh.
falling asleep though.
Fair
I'm
enough.
like it's not I'm falling asleep. I'm just getting delirious. But how many pages are in this book?
What total? I
Yeah.
think it's like a 300-page book.
No, so it's not like 9,000. Okay, good.
No. It's not. It's not. It's long. It's longer than None Dare Call It Conspiracy, but it's like half the length of Aberration.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, and the chapters are of reasonable length. I think we can probably get through McMolestation. McMolestation. Oh God. I was kind of hoping to use McMolestation for the thumbnail of next week's episode, but yeah. Boy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it's rough. It's rough. Like, yeah, I don't know, vigilante justice. Like who could honestly say it's bad given the circumstances? Like that guy who was that guy who capped the child molester in the airport? You remember that?
Oh, that dude was from Baton Rouge.
Yeah, that's right. Man. The oh my God. Vulpus Persona in the chat, Ronald McFondled.
That's a Twitter handle right there.
Oh my God. Michael Aquino Groiper, Colonel Michael Aquino Groiper would be an awful one. But yeah. But the profile pic would be iconic. It's true. All right. Chapter 4, McMolestation. If there is anyone who can relate to these sentiments expressed by the Presidio and West Point parents, it is the mothers and fathers of children who attended the infamous McMartin preschool. Are you ready for the McMartin preschool?
No, I don't know if I am.
The McMartin it does get worse.
Yeah, I bet.
But we're still like, okay, we are FBI informant asks, in today's society, would Aquino turn out? Yes, 100%. Absolutely certain. Just for being a creep. Yeah, he for sure would. Let's see. Okay, so if this was a roller coaster, we haven't even stopped getting like cranked to the first hill.
Jeez.
Yeah, and actually, it probably won't happen until chapter 6. So,
so he's setting up a banger. This is gonna get it's gonna stay rough. I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's gonna get rougher, but it's gonna get a lot rougher now. The McMartin case was, of course, the largest and most well-publicized of the multi-victim, multi-perpetrator ritual abuse cases that captured the headlines in the 1980s. It was also a case that was grotesquely misrepresented by the media, both mainstream and alternative, perhaps nowhere more so than in the appalling writings of Nation columnist Alexander Cockburn, nominative determinism, who went so far as to write an op-ed entitled "The McMartin Case: Indict the Children, Jail the Parents," which ran in the Wall Street Journal on February 8th, 1990. Virtually everyone agrees that the children of McMartin were victimized. There was considerable debate, of course, over whether that victimization was by abusive caretakers or by overzealous therapists and prosecutors. Either way, Cockburn's stance on the case was unconscionable and should have sent a clear signal to the progressive community that there was considerably more to the McMartin allegations than met the eye. The harsh reality is that the McMartin preschool, in conjunction with at least 2 other Manhattan Beach preschools and 1 babysitting service, was the center of a very large child prostitution and child pornography ring, whose operations appear to have been protected and covered up by any number of local, state, and federal officials. A glimpse of the true nature and scale of the McMartin case is offered by an official correspondence from Sergeant Beth Dickerson of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department to Agent Kenneth Lanning at the FBI Academy's Behavioral Sciences Unit in Quantico, Virginia, dated February 10th, 1985. In August 1983, the Manhattan Beach Police Department began an investigation regarding the allegations of sexual abuse occurring at the McMartin preschool. Altogether, approximately 400 children were evaluated by therapists at Children's Institute International. All interviews were videotaped, and 350 children disclosed sexual behavior. In all, the victims named 7 teachers, 6 women and 1 male, at the preschool as having molested them. Women, mostly women. Witches, actual witches. At the preschool as having molested them. These individuals are currently charged with 209 counts of child molestation. Also named are about 30 other individuals still uncharged, as well as numerous unidentified strangers. McMartin victims allege sexual abuse occurred on school grounds as well as at a local market, churches, a mortuary, various homes. What is it with mortuaries?
That's a good question, actually.
Yeah. Various homes, a farm, a doctor's office, other preschools, and other unknown locations. Most children state that they were photographed in the nude. They mentioned drinking a red or a pink liquid that made them sleepy. Children disclose animal sacrificing, bunnies, ponies, turtles, etc. A pony, that's a big one. That's a fucking big thing to get rid of. And some of this occurred in churches. Victims describe sticks put in their vaginas and rectums, and also being pooped and peed on. Children say that the adults
peed on.
Yeah, that was in quotes. Yeah. Children say that the adults, sometimes dressed in black robes, formed a circle around them and chanted. In May 1984, another preschool investigation began in the same policing jurisdiction, stemming from a McMartin victim who identified the Manhattan Ranch preschool as a place where he was taken and molested. Additional children have begun disclosing sexual abuse, approximately 60 of them, and they have named 6 or more additional suspects. These children talk of strangers coming to the school and molesting them, being taken off campus and molested, being photographed nude, and some talk of animals being abused. The children talk of being hit with sticks and of being peed and pooped on. That's pretty much what we just read. Just quoted.
Just peed and pooped in there again.
Yeah, he reversed the order. Yeah. The resources of the police department and district attorney's offices were not sufficient in order to follow up on the multitude of uncharged suspects in both preschools. The task force became operational on November 5th, How could it not be sufficient? Just keep following up, right? Just keep following up. Get a few down, all right? They're in prison. Great. Next one. Like, keep following up. You just follow up forever, right? You just follow up forever until you run out of people to follow up on. Like, you arrest everyone and you execute anyone who does a crime like this. The task force became operational on November 5th, 1984. It should be noted that it had 2 other preschools under investigation for alleged sexual abuse, in addition to McMartin and Manhattan Ranch. One, the Learning Game Preschool, is clearly linked to McMartin. An astounding 460 children reported being sexually abused at the 3 closely linked Manhattan Beach schools. Even more astounding, investigative author Michael Newton, among others, has noted that Children's Institute International determined a full 80% displayed physical symptoms, including vaginal or rectal scarring, anal bleeding, painful bowel movements, and the anal wick reflex associated with violent penetration.
Oh.
The stories told by the victims and witnesses were remarkably similar as to the nature of the abuse, the locations where the abuse took place, and the perpetrators of the abuse. And these were not, as is commonly believed, only preschool children telling such stories. Some of the witnesses were former students in their teens and 20s, and their stories corroborated those of the children. The older witnesses were not allowed to testify at the McMartin trials, however, as the statute of limitations for the crimes committed against them had expired. Why is there a statute of limitations on that anyway? Like, why is there a statute of limitations on child abuse? Child sexual abuse. Child molestation should not have a statute of limitations. It should be like, oh, well, sorry, it's been 10 years. It's an open and shut case. This guy diddled the shit out of you, but I can't do anything because, this random fucking stupid ass rule. Why do we have that rule? What is the purpose of that rule? Yeah. Randall Shirker says there isn't any more in several states. Well, bully for them. How the fuck could there be anywhere? But yeah. Many of the younger witnesses were unable to offer testimony as well for various reasons, most notably because they were too severely traumatized. Even so, as author Jan Hollingsworth has pointed out, prosecutors had at their disposal more than 100 child witnesses as old as 11 and a truckload of medical reports bearing documentation of scarred genitals and anuses. What a wonderful thing to have a truckload of. The stories told by these children, it should be noted, were not fed to them by some diabolical team of therapists and headline-seeking journalists. Many of them were offered spontaneously to hundreds of parents and scores of child care specialists. And many of the victims of McMartin Preschool, all adults now, still tell the same stories today. Anyone suggesting that the allegations in the McMartin case were true and that a massive cover-up concealed the true nature and scope of the case is likely to be labeled a conspiracy theorist. The most preposterous conspiracy theory surrounding McMartin, however, has always been the notion that some cabal of overzealous therapists was able to implant false memories of heinous abuse in the minds of nearly 500 individuals and have them persist to this day. Now, just to be clear, you can implant false memories. That is absolutely possible.
We absolutely can. Thank you,
Yes.
Golly West.
Yes, we know that you 100% can do that. However,
I feel like the McMartin, the preschool here is more likely to be the ones doing the false.
Yeah,
they're adding a fourth D to DDD is what they're doing.
You have, oh my God,
Damn,
the last D is diddling. The issue is, of course, that, right. What Randall Shirker is saying. Reminder: the False Memory Syndrome Foundation. Jolly West was a consultant for them. Yeah, he was, and he was also involved in cult deprogramming stuff. And I don't necessarily think that a lot of the cult deprogramming stuff was he wanted to do it because he recognized that, and he says this in interviews, by the way. So he recognized that his research into the DDD method was very similar to what cult induction was using, and he wanted to see if he could reverse it. Like he was still trying to see, he was still developing the technology. He was really an engineer in a lot of ways, absolutely amoral and a monster in many ways. But he was doing engineering for these types of psychological technology. And the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, of course, was run by two pedophiles. And it is possible. It is possible to implant false memories. However, there's all sorts of questions about, access. How quickly could you do it? Of course, these things would tend to not stick around if the people who were implanting the memories didn't have a whole lot of access. How many people really existed in the country at the time who could successfully implant these types of memories? It just doesn't seem it fails the feasibility test. Right. Unfortunately, there are way more people who can and would molest children than there are who could implant false memories of molestation in children. Like, unfortunately. Yeah. Anyway, despite the vast number of eyewitnesses, most of them bearing physical evidence of abuse, and despite the fact that the judge who presided over more than a year of pretrial testimony ruled that the state had more than enough evidence to proceed to trial, District Attorney Ira Reiner inexplicably dropped all charges against 5 of the 7 McMartin defendants on January 17, 1986. 6 days before that, he had summarily dismissed 2 prosecutors on the case. At least 36 suspects who had been independently identified by numerous witnesses were never indicted at all. One of these was a man named Robert Winkler, who was arrested in neighboring Torrance, California, and charged with running a babysitting service out of the Cocoa Palms Motel. Okay. All right. A babysitting service out of the Cocoa Palms Motel. Does that not seem suspicious to you? Like, I'm not saying that the parents had that one coming, but like a little bit of diligence. Like, all right. Service out of the Cocoa Palms Motel that authorities described as a front for a sexual abuse ring. No fucking shit. Children in the McMartin case recognized Winkler in news footage as the man they had known as the Wolf Man. The kids described Winkler as being a frequent visitor to the school, who oftentimes delivered drugs for use in abusive rituals, which were sometimes conducted in churches, a cemetery, or a crematorium. There we go. Crematorium. The Wolfman, conveniently enough, turned up dead on the eve of his trial, allegedly of a drug overdose. Winkler was not the only one to miss his day in court in conjunction with the McMartin case. Judy Johnson, the first McMartin parent to lodge a complaint, never delivered her scheduled testimony. Her body was found sprawled naked on the floor of her home. Her death said to be due to complications from her chronic alcoholism. Before her death, she was regularly derided by defense attorneys and their media allies as a deranged crank. In truth, Johnson was not known to have any mental problems or a drinking problem before learning of the unthinkable abuse her child had suffered. Considered a key prosecution witness, Johnson received frequent threats before her death, and she was followed when she ventured out in public. Many of the other McMartin parents were openly skeptical of Johnson's stated cause of death. A former Hermosa Beach police officer named Paul Bynum, who had been hired by the parents of victims as a private investigator, turned up dead on the eve of his scheduled testimony as well. His death by gunshot was ruled a suicide, though those close to Bynum dispute that finding. Among other things, Bynum may have testified about his examination of the tunnel excavation project conducted at the school site. Who else digs tunnels? This was, of course, the object of much derision by the media. The fact that the children repeatedly told stories of tunnels under the property by which they could be secretly transported to and from the school, and in which they were subjected to horrific abuse in a secret room, was frequently cited as proof that the children's stories were fabrications. It was universally accepted that the tunnels did not actually exist, that being the consensus view of the media and law enforcement authorities. Nevertheless, while it is true that the investigation commissioned by the district attorney's office found no evidence of tunnels, another investigation, ignored by the media, certainly did. Many of the parents were not satisfied. Hey, did the McMartin preschool have a basement? Yeah. Let's see. Shirker. Yeah, I always point to this sort of thing because it really does illustrate that the cults, deprogrammers, and CIA torturers all use the same methods. Yeah, I mean, that's not like, it's not incriminating that they all use the same methods, right? It's just that that's what works. Like that's how you do that, right? Like obviously the discovery of these things is fraught with naughty, I guess I wouldn't even say ethically questionable methods, right? You just say deplorable methods, but deplorable. But yeah, I mean, they all use them because that's how it works. Yeah. Let's see here. You need to be wood pit. You need to be tunnel maxing. You need to be scurrying. God. Yeah. Let's see here. Randall Sugar. Yeah. It's funny that it's the same people who are involved in developing them. Yeah. I mean, it would be very interesting to finally see some, allegedly, this was, according to Jolly West, this was reverse engineered from the North Koreans. So it would be interesting to see what Chinese and Korean method, like primary sources, said, but I don't know that those exist. So, yeah. Many of the parents were not satisfied with the superficial examination by the DA's office and commissioned another investigation of the site when the property was sold in April 1990. To lead the project, they hired E. Gary Stickle, PhD, a highly regarded archaeologist recommended to them by the chair of the interdisciplinary program of the archaeology department at UCLA. Stickle's resume included serving as a consultant to George Lucas on the Indiana Jones movies. Also brought on board were several other technical specialists. As Stickle wrote in his report on the excavation, by engaging a highly recommended professional archaeological team, the parents hoped to bring scientific authority to whatever might be found, or a definitive resolution for whatever was not to be found. What the team found was precisely what the children for the previous 7 years had been telling them they would find. The project unearthed not one but two tunnel complexes, as well as previously unrecognized structural features which defied logical explanation. Both tunnel complexes conformed to locations and functional descriptions established by children's reports. One had been described as providing undetected access to an adjacent building on the east. The other provided outside access under the west wall of the building and contained within it an enlarged cavernous artifact corresponding to children's descriptions of a secret room. A cavernous artifact. Both the contour signature of the walls and the nature of recovered artifacts indicated that the tunnels had been dug by hand under the concrete slab floor after the construction of the building. Not only did the discovered features fulfill the research pre-qualifications as tunnels designed for human traffic, there was also no alternative or natural explanation for the presence of such features. If the stories of the children were bogus fantasies, there is no excuse for the tunnels discovered under the school. If there really were tunnels, there is no excuse for the glib dismissal of any and all of the complaints of the children and their parents. This investigation was completed before the McMartin trials concluded, and yet this devastating evidence was never presented in courts or by the prosecution team. The existence of this detailed report, complete with photographs and maps of the tunnel complex, was known to the local and national press, but it was never reported. To this day, it is denied that any tunnels ever existed under the McMartin preschool. The denial of the tunnels is necessary to maintain the illusion that the children were not credible witnesses, that illusion being an essential component of the cover-up. For if the children were credible, the implications run far deeper than the tunnels under the school. There are, for example, the stories told by the children of being pimped out as child prostitutes in private homes and businesses all over the community. They also spoke frequently of being photographed and videotaped while being abused. District Attorney Robert Filibosian publicly declared that the McMartin preschool to be an elaborate front for a massive child pornography operation. 23 parents filed a civil lawsuit making the very same claim. Other stories told repeatedly by the children were even more disturbing. They told of being forced to witness and participate in the ritual torture, killing, and mutilation of animals, and on occasion of human babies and children as well. They spoke of being forced to drink the blood and eat the flesh of the slaughtered corpses, of witnessing the beheading of infants, and of being forced to stab infants themselves. They told as well of being sealed in coffins with the mutilated corpses, and they spoke of being subjected to every sort of depraved sexual activity imaginable, including necrophilia, coprophilia, and bestiality. The abuse was of such stunning brutality that it is almost beyond human comprehension. That anyone could inflict such physical and psychological torture on children, and yet these stories were soon being told by thousands of other kids across the country as preschool abuse cases spread like wildfire. Young children from all walks of life and from all parts of the country were telling remarkably similar stories of horrific ritual abuse. How was this possible? If they were, I mean, the thing is, right? So why aren't these stories being spread now? Right? Like why don't we hear about these presently? Like stuff that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Right? Because none of these people ever face justice. Right? So taking it at face value, right? Of course that this ritual abuse occurred. So we're not hearing about it because where are the children? We just had millions of, let's say, completely undocumented children who would never be reported missing, right? Who no one would listen to, who got brought into this country over the last, since 2012, really, it's been essentially open season. Like all of these children were uncut, like these things were uncovered because the kids were talking, right, to their parents, who then, followed up like any parent would, right? Well, most parents would. And I think it's fairly probable. I think I think the whole demographic replacement angle on migration is obviously true. But the free trade of illicit substances and undocumented victims is definitely part of it. So I just, food for thought on that, I guess. How is this possible? If they were all victims of false memories, how vast a conspiracy would be required for therapists all across the country to implant the very same memories in all of these children? Experts have noted that the victimized children show a level of knowledge that defies rational explanation. If the kids have not experienced what they claim to have experienced, for instance, these child victims can accurately describe the look, smell, texture, and colors of human viscera. This is an ability, it has been argued, that very few adults possess, other than those who have been trained as surgeons or coroners. These children also display a remarkable level of knowledge of a wide variety of unconventional human sexual practices, including many acts that, again, most adults do not have knowledge or awareness of. If these children did not experience these things firsthand, then how did they gain such knowledge? In February 1985, Officer Sandy Gallant of the San Francisco Police Department submitted a report to her superiors noting the similarities in numerous ritual abuse cases. She'd gathered evidence from fellow officers and police departments across the country and summarized the evidence referenced in the police report submitted to her. An excerpt from her report reads as follows. The information contained herein is distasteful and bizarre to such a degree that one would choose to discredit it. However, research that I have done in this area has revealed that numerous cases of this type are surfacing around the country and in Canada. The similarities in these stories of each victim used in these crimes tend to give credibility to the information revealed by others. Additionally, the psychiatrists and therapists who have been treating the victims state that the consistency of these stories and the explicit details revealed cause them to believe that these children are telling the truth. It is also the belief of each law enforcement officer who submitted information for this report that the victims are being truthful and that, in fact, children would be unable to make such stories up. There's a citation here on on that line that's all happens to be on this page, so I'll just read it. Barron's Dictionary of Medical Terms defines necrophilia as the morbid liking or desire for dead bodies, especially the desire to have sexual contact with a dead body. Bestiality is defined as sexual involvement of a human with an animal, and coprophilia is, well, liking shit. Yeah. I don't know why that citation was right there, but okay. During my research, similarities began surfacing, which indicate the strong probability that there exists a network of people in this country involved in the sexual abuse and possible homicides of young children. These cases appear to differ from isolated cases of abuse towards children in that the crimes mentioned there have been committed with one common goal in mind, that of mutilating and murdering children for ritualistic or sacrificial purposes. Many of the cases reported also reveal the possibility of child pornography beyond the normal type of kiddie porn, and that these children are photographed during rituals with some members in robes and other garb, candles, snakes, swords, altars, and other types of ritualistic material being used. Gallant requested that the report be sent on to the chief of police for him to review and then forward to the FBI. Following his review, however, the chief declined to submit the report. Gallant next tried to get the U.S. Department of Justice to review the paperwork, but she was rebuffed there as well. There's a rare case of a lady cop doing her job. As for the McMartin case, there has never been any question that the children there were horrifically abused. Though rarely noted in press reports, the jurors were clearly of the opinion that was in fact the case. The hung juries and acquittals in the various proceedings were the result of the jury members' inability to identify the perpetrators of the abuse, not the reflection of any belief that there wasn't any abuse. The jurors attributed their inability to identify the perpetrators to the inept presentation of the prosecution's case. Also rarely noted in the reporting on the trials is that the matriarch of the McMartin family, Virginia McMartin, admitted on the stand that one of her own granddaughters believed that her own children had been molested at the school. Virginia McMartin, incidentally, was more than just your run-of-the-mill preschool operator. In the mid-1960s, she achieved a sort of semi-celebrity status in the childcare field and traveled extensively as a consultant, including stops in New Zealand, Australia, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and England. Another notable aspect of the McMartin trials is that the defense team was allowed to subject the child witness to the longest pretrial hearing in the nation's history, facing a battery of as many as 7 rabid defense attorneys. The already severely traumatized children were verbally assaulted for weeks on end in a deliberate attempt to break them. The state made little effort to protect these young victim and witnesses. In the final analysis, also just several weeks of getting harangued by defense attorneys is the DDD method. So if you were trying to do something, you could do it that way. In the final analysis, the logical conclusion to be drawn from the McMartin case is that 460 kids did not all conspire to lie about the abuse they suffered. They also did not likely lie about their involvement in child prostitution and child pornography. They certainly did not lie about the tunnels under the school. They probably did not lie about their forced involvement in satanic rituals in which adults sheathed in black ceremonial robes uttered chants. In fact, at least one such robe was seized from the home of a defendant. And perhaps most tragically, there is good reason to believe that they did not lie about the blood sacrifices either. All right.
I can barely hear you.
Really?
Well, no, it's I told you whenever we were talking, it's my audio's going bad.
Sandy, you have been very low energy today.
I know.
I choose to believe that your silence is a response to the material we're covering.
I mean, it's that, but I told you, but I'm like dead tired.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Sex
it's like
Freakman,
2 weeks in a row, though.
No, I feel you. Sex Freakman says, Merry Christmas. Sandy released the naughty list. I know you have it. Well, this book is all naughty list, so we are releasing it. Unfortunately, it will not be out in time for Christmas 2025. Yeah. We're not, we're gonna call it. I think we're gonna call it. We're not doing chapter 5 tonight. We're not doing chapter 5 tonight. We could maybe do it in 15 minutes. It's only 2 pages. Oh God.
No, so we start, but we can start off again we get a kill real fast next time.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because it's the Finder's Cult. Chapter 6 is the Finder's Cult.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, this was a mistake.
It might get better.
We should have no, it's going to get worse. I know it's going to get worse.
Oh, you've read this book, yeah.
Yeah.
You broke the rule.
What?
Is it we don't read books that you've already read?
No, I read Aberration in the Heartland of the Real 10 years ago before I read. Yeah. So yeah, this is, I wish that we had some sort of Christmas thing that we could have done.
Oh, yeah, pedos.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, guys. But yeah, I hope that maybe if you get one thing from this, in the next couple days when you're spending Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with your loved ones, you can take what I've read here and just think about how much better you have it, right? Not like no Schadenfreude, obviously, because all of these poor people did not deserve what happened to them. But just cherish that time. Just cherish that time, because some people are not so fortunate. All right, we're gonna leave it there. We will see you next time. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
You're discouraged from questioning and thinking critically. You must accept the word of the leaders. They make you feel guilty if you do question or argue. Your environment is often controlled, cutting you off from friends, family, school, previously held beliefs. They want you to become dependent, provide a poor diet, poor health care, little sleep, and long, exhausting hours of work to make you physically weak and lower your ability to think clearly. Subtly, your self-confidence gets undermined, and your self-image or sense of identity is changed. The leaders control channels of communication. They cut off or put down outside sources of information. Then they bombard you with what they want you to think. They use strong peer pressure, playing on your desire to be loved and accepted. The leaders may promise rewards if you obey them and punishment if you don't, but they alternate harshness and leniency in order to confuse you. The leaders manipulate language, giving special meanings to words that only insiders understand. This is to make you feel like you're part of a special, important, or elite group, and that outsiders are inferior, dangerous, or doomed. You have to confess your shortcomings, mistakes, or misbehavior, sometimes even if these things never really happened. And meanwhile, your time and activities are tightly controlled. You don't have much privacy or energy or time to think because you're too busy doing monotonous, repetitive tasks. The leaders try to control you and even your sexuality, everything about you. They want to exploit you for their own enrichment, their own power or grandiosity. If they succeed, you will declare your loyalty unto its leaders, rejecting your old values and way of life. Without realizing it, you will have been changed into a person who is being controlled by a totalist cult.